Welcome, and this is the Rest Football. I'm Gary Linko. Oh, sorry, wrong podcast. Anyway, so welcome again to the Brain Dead Sports Podcast. Special guest today. We have the wonderful Keith Cort. Is a senior mechanical engineer major at Howard University, hailing from Georgetown, Ghana, as a first generation college student. So, must applause for that. His passion for space exploration ignited during his teenage years, shaping his academic aspirations. Keith's ultimate goal is to earn a PhD in aeronautics and astronautics,
Top stuff.
that dedicated to advancing humanity's understanding of the cosmos. Our very own Neil
Elon Musk.
deGrasse slash Elon, yeah. In his formative years, Keith engaged in various sports, including cricket, football, and track and field. These experiences instilled in him a strong sense of discipline, which continues to influence his life. Although his competitive sports days are now in the past, Keith finds solace and excitement in watching sports as a means of relaxation. Sports remain a steadfast and enduring element in his life. So, welcome, Keith, to this podcast. A pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much, fellas. It's great to be here. Very much of an honor of mine, and I look forward to our discussions.
All right, and our second guest is Lemar Williams. Lemar was born on 13th of September 1998. Lemar is an attorney at law with a dynamic personality. He attended St. Joseph High School and Bishop's High School, where he helped pioneer first law societies at both high schools. Lemar holds a Bachelor's of Law degree with honors from the University of the West Indies, that's at the St. Augustine campus in Trinidad, and a legal education certificate from the Hugh Within Law School. Lemar also holds certifications in electrical wiring and installation and information technology. Wow, look at you, a man in STEM. Served as the sports committee chairperson at the University of the West Indies, where he pioneered the regional and international student committee. Lemar also served as the treasurer of the Guyanese Student Association and the founder of Project Rope. He is currently the lead sports writer for a magazine known as, what is this, Lemar?
It's a carrion.
Wait, really?
Yes,
You're a
he's
sports
Caribbean.
writer?
Yes.
Look at you not knowing it.
Wonderful.
Yes,
Look at I really didn't know. Like, damn,
he
cool
studies
stuff,
sports
man.
law and is a professional advisor for the implementation of sports policies, reading, sports, particular athletic, football, and chess are Lemar's pastimes. He also finds travel comforting. Well, that's, are you referring to like the actual act of traveling or arriving at the destination?
I would like to think both.
Okay.
Just exploring the world.
All right.
I
Well,
just
welcome, Lemar. It's a pleasure to have you, and we look forward to the discussion. All right. So, our first topic today is essentially just the Premier League review. Um, so first off, Manchester City, and we have here avid City fan for years now. Even before they truly became the juggernauts of world football that they are now. So in their last game, uh, they played Arsenal, I believe, and
yeah, they lost.
Terrible game.
it was a bit of a scrappy game. Nonetheless, for the first
Terrible football.
in a very very long time, Arsenal actually win 1-0 after a 86-minute goal by Gabriel Martinelli. So, how do you feel about and how do you feel about City's prospects going forward for this season?
Well, in regards to the actual game at hand, I think it was a terrible game. I think it was terrible for all football fans. We expected excitement. play because you have a lot of quality players on both sides. But I feel as though they were locked into this whole tactical battle of just being scrappy. It wasn't like a tactical battle that you would see with Mourinho versus Guardiola, like Real Madrid, Barca back in the days. Even though these two teams are really, holding their own and doing really well, Arsenal and City, I think it was a match that let a lot of fans down. And I remember that majority of the match, I was actually yawning. I did not enjoy it. I think it was absolutely terrible. And City on the day was like, I think that's maybe almost the worst I've seen us play in a very long time. And I don't think that's giving credit to Arsenal. I didn't think Arsenal did anything special. I think they actually gave us a lot of respect because on that day, I believe if they really came out to play their football, they should have easily put City in a spliff. 3-0, possibly 4-0, even beyond that, I think they could have done if they really came out and played their way of football. City, we didn't defend well, we didn't attack well. Haaland was Casper when it comes around Halloween time, especially like a ghost. He was non-existent. But, but we understand why, like he is like the old-fashioned center forward that depends heavily on service. He's not the type of player like Ronaldo or Messi to take the game by the scruff of the neck and to just turn it on its head by himself. I think we've gotten accustomed to seeing that over the last 15 years because of people like Messi and Ronaldo. So we expect nowadays people to be to that same standard. But I think Haaland, without somebody like Kevin De Bruyne, he's actually not that great. He's a great striker in his own right, given the traditional form of it. But given what the game requires today, yeah, I don't think he can really just fit into any team. It works well when you have someone like Kevin De Bruyne on the pitch, but when he's not there, Haaland was gone. I really do think that Alvarez in certain games he probably should start over Haaland and maybe not both of them starting at the same time. I think in this Arsenal game it could have been one of those because Alvarez is much more willing to come into pockets. He's much more technically gifted than Haaland. And like he can run off the defender, he can drop into the hole, he can do a quick 1-2 and all those kind of things. Haaland has that in his game, and it was really seen again in this game against Arsenal. Saliba and Gabriel. Saliba is great. I don't rate Gabriel that highly, but both of them had him in their pockets. Like when they went home and they took all their car keys and everything, part of him was not there. To be very honest, but I'm not going to single him out alone. I think it's just let's talk about Rodri and him being missing after that crazy red card against I think it was Forest when he just lost his mind and he was gone for that game. So I think Arsenal really overran us in the middle of the pitch, but not even by much because they were really poor. I think Odegaard was also a ghost. You don't have De Bruyne there and you don't have Rodri. You expect him to pull the strings. It wasn't like that. It was just really, really scrappy. But shout out to Arsenal, though. Their first win against City in 12 games in the Prem. I think it dates back to about 5.5 years. That is a very deplorable stat. But, the Arsenal fans are really having a fun day. But beyond that match, how do I feel about the state of City right now? I think I'm actually pretty calm. I'm not really that worried. I know usually we go through this rough patch about October, November, even sometimes into December. But when the turn of the year comes and everybody's fit and we firing on all cylinders, then everything just goes to plan for the most part. I think right now all we just got to focus on is not falling too far behind. And I don't think we will. Because Rodri's coming back now, he's going to be that pivot in midfield that really, pushes us forward and defends really well. So I'm not worried at all about City right now. I just do think though we need to get rid of some dead wood, dead weight. Referencing people like Calvin Phillips, he just needs to go. He is not of City's quality. Honestly, he probably looked very good in a championship team. I'm not sure that he right now over the last year or so he's shown any Premier League quality, but I'm sure. Listen, he could go to a lesser team, maybe Luton or something, and he'd probably do a really great job there. But he's not City's
probably Liverpool.
Hey, first of all, wait, hold on a minute, right?
They desperately need a
First of all,
yeah,
I remember a certain team crying for a pivot, right? I know y'all got Amrabat now, but calm.
Oh man,
Casemiro won't be there for much longer, man.
I'm not a Man U fan, Ron needs them, so.
Well, no, but hold on, let's not get distracted.
I'm not gonna Lemar talking up because Caicedo had like 1 or 2 good games. don't think we forget the rest of the games before then.
But Keith,
Yes.
so in the we know City's known for their depth. So going back to the point about Phillips, in the event that let's say Rodriguez, he gets a red card or two yellows or something, um, don't you think that Phillips is a needed let's say cushion for
Commodity?
him?
Absolutely not. I think Pep was. I think
Sorry,
Pep has
continue.
shown us time and time again he has no trust in him, right? Listen, Pep trusts him as much as I probably trust a red woman. Like, no offense to red women, I love red women, but like Pep trusts him as much as that. So it's clear as day that Pep doesn't want him to start in any team. Pep doesn't want him to really and truly perform on a high level. Because if you prefer putting somebody else like Bernardo at the DM position, because that's what happened in that game against
Yeah,
Arsenal.
that's ridiculous.
They put Bernardo in the DM role over him, and his role is actually a DM. That's no faith in him, right? Like Pep is not Job. Pep does not see any potential talent in this guy, right? He
Or
does not have
Southgate
that
for
faith.
that matter.
Yeah, I don't know. Southgate is a different story. Somehow he keeps starting, but that's a different story for another time. But yeah, I think he's not good enough. I think a reasonable backup needs to come in. I think the acquisition of somebody like Mateus Nunes, but he's not CDM, but I think he was a good addition to the team. But he just came at a time when we are dealing with injuries and red cards and all these different things. He's not really been able to acclimate that well to the squad as well. But I actually see him becoming a decent player for us. But Calvin Phillips, no man. Like honestly, I would sell him for like 5 million if we get to 10. Like just cut your losses. Like how man you should have done with Maguire for years. Just cut your losses.
Honestly, but on your point with Calvin Phillips, I actually don't think he's a bad player. Maybe he's not of a top 6 quality player, but
Mhm.
I do think he needs like a run of games in order to be successful. And I don't think he's been able to get that at City, so he definitely should look for a move.
Yeah, I agree, right? And if history is any indicator, I think he should just look back at what happened to Joe Hart when Pep came, right? Pep just displaced him completely, and he never really got back into the team for a run of games. And this legendary status that he had as a goalkeeper, not even just in the Prem or at City, in the world, just really faded away. But the thing is, Pep really was already there when Phillips came across. And you would think if the manager bought you, then he really had some sort of plans for you. But it's clear as day. But at this point, there are no plans for him.
Yeah.
Like we wanted to get rid of him. He said he wanted to stay to prove himself. He's proven that he can spend a lot of time on the bench, but not on the field. So I think in January we should be looking to offload it into the Champions League. If we're trying to win the Champions League, again, we've already seen somebody like Rodri being injured. Let's say him being injured or he picks up a red card or something. Who do we put in that hole if we have injuries again? Because John Stones and all these different things, he can play as a CDM, but if he's not available through injuries, as we've seen, we need somebody else. And I just need Phillips to go. And I'm not just saying like he's the only
I
reason that
mean,
we're
to be fair though, Keith, City, when it comes to their signings, they haven't really, broken into the team straight away. I mean, even Grealish needed some time to get,
Who
to
is
become
currently back
favored.
on the
And
bench,
even
by the
now,
way.
and he's currently back on the bench. Exactly, that's my point. So like, it's always kind of like a up and down thing at City, but I think City has like this kind of luck with certain players where, at some point they just break into the team. And they're good for a while. They could be very important. Like Grealish was so important to their their treble run last season. Grealish was so important. And now he's back on the bench again. So like maybe Phillips plays a role in some part of City's success this season if they have any, which we're expecting.
Chris,
Well,
it reminds me. Let me segue into a point. It reminds me of the fact. If you look back, I remember seeing a quote that the only person was ever guaranteed to remain in a Pep Guardiola lineup was Lionel Messi, and
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly true. And as of recent, you could probably say KDB.
yeah, but
Because
even
I remember
before,
like there was a period
yeah,
that like
a bench too.
especially for FPL players, there was like if you have to go with a City player, just choose KDB. It doesn't make sense picking anybody else because you're not sure if they'll start.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But then I remember there were portions of last season, like a run of maybe 3 games, where Pep had him on like the bench.
I
You
think
could see that.
I think that was more
or
game management, to be honest, in my opinion. But like I think that was more game management for him, given like his workload and his injury history as well.
Yeah,
But
I mean that could be the case. But like to Lemar's point of the Lionel Messi being the only person who's guaranteed a spot, I think with Phillips, right? I get what you guys are saying, but if the mere fact that your DM is injured and you still don't trust this guy who is supposed to be your backup DM to start, that you put someone who
Yeah.
plays on the wing or more attacking
mm,
midfield to
Hmm.
go into the DM role, then I think that just says like I do not
I
trust your
I
as a
actually
player.
agree with Keith 100% on this. Essentially, he and Phillips should cut their losses. The thing that's concerned about me, similar to Manchester United and Maguire, is that I'm concerned when players seem okay to be on the bench. And I don't mean players who
Yeah.
come on every game. Like let's say like how John Stones might have been out of the team like 2 years back, but he came back in for essentially the entirety of last season. Ake might not play every game, but he will play some games, Akanji, etc., etc. For players like Maguire and Phillips, they seem completely okay, never playing, and that's quite
Mm.
bizarre for me. It's one thing to be a part of the squad and in rotation, and there's another thing to be okay sitting on the bench. So I wonder if it's a mentality issue that Pep doesn't think he has with City, like that hunger, maybe
Hmm.
training, because miss out because they don't. And if you don't train well, you might never have the opportunity to show your quality on the pitch. And if you look
Yeah.
at the last game against John Stones came on as a sub, Nunes came on as a sub. He is the only true DM, and he never came on at any point. Plus, Brian Kovacic was a sign that his time at City was at an end
Over.
because Kovacic is essentially
I
the
don't see Kovacic as a DM either though. Like Kovacic is like a more of a like box to box player, I think, like a ball carrying player. But
That's
the thing is,
that's
right?
absolutely true.
Pep, Pep has this kind of this thing with DMs that I don't really get, because if you're not like a world class DM straight away, he would not hesitate to bench you. Like, remember in that Champions League final where he actually preferred to play a more technical player in Gundogan, who is an attacking midfielder by trade, as the pivot instead of either of his two defensive midfielders in Rodri or Fernandinho.
Yeah.
So it's just
that
like, well, Rodri
was just
wasn't
the
at the level
genius
where he is
of Pep.
right now. Yeah, like, he
At
just
this point,
doesn't
I
have
feel
like
as
this
though
relationship with a defensive midfielder. I think Pep probably would have benched Prime Casemiro at Real Madrid just because he wasn't that technical.
yeah, that may be true. And if you look at Pep's team over the years,
Like,
like he converted Kimmich to a CDM, and Kimmich is an absolute beast at Bayern.
But Kimmich is so technical though. Like,
No, no,
Kimmich's
that's my
game
point.
is so all around.
Yeah, I
And
was
the
about to
same
agree
with
with you.
Busquets at Barca. Like,
Yeah,
his
Busquets and even
technical
Rodri.
ability, yeah.
Rodri's a technical
Ro-
player. So it's
Rodri
clear
is
that
very
Pep,
technical as well. Yeah.
yeah, he
yeah,
prefers
Pep knows.
So
technical ability to
he
the
prefers
actual
technical
ability to break
abilities
up
to
play.
just be in that, traditional defensive mid that can cover the back line. But
Exactly.
at some
Yeah,
point, I think you may need it. And I feel like he overthinks a bit to the point where he wants technical ability over that physicality, I would say.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, he wants to always go down in history for playing his way, his technical brand of football, and he's not going to change it for anybody. Because to be honest, remember when he came to the Prem,
Mhm.
win in the Prem the way he was playing at all these
Yeah.
other teams at Barca and Bayern, and
Yeah.
he just showed them
Mhm.
completely that he can
Yeah.
with his technical way. I
Exactly.
don't think he wants to change because of legacy. Like he will just go down as one of the greatest of all time to ever do it in a managerial position, playing his way. He doesn't like to adapt to
Mhm.
people. He wants people to adapt to him.
Yeah.
So in
Yeah.
the case of somebody like Joe Hart, who couldn't adapt to his style, you saw what he did. He went out, he got Claudio Bravo, wasn't really an improvement, and then eventually got Edison, ball playing,
Mhm.
very technical like goalkeeper. You see the same
Yeah.
thing, like Fernandinho left. Yeah, Fernandinho was great for a couple of years, but he had Rodri
Mhm.
there already under his wing. So like when Fernandinho left, he had Rodri completely over. Technical player again. Technical player again. To be fair, no disrespect to Sterling. Sterling was there for a couple of years, but Sterling was never that technically gifted, and he loved Grealish when Grealish came into that slot. He loved Bernardo. Like, look at the players that he loves. So if he loves a certain type of play, and you like in the case of Phillips, like he's seen that he's not being able to adapt to that style of play, then leave because you're really not going to spend much time. And as Ron was saying, if you are so comfortable just being on the bench, it says a lot to me because he
Yeah.
never looks upset being on the bench.
He's always smiling.
He is smiling, he is calm, he is happy. And as a professional footballer, if that's the kind of attitude you have, then you're just not going to cut it for the top teams.
Well, I guess we could go on from here.
No,
Lemar.
just before we go on, I just wanted to ask Keith about this take about Haaland. Like I understand Haaland isn't the most technical player, but at Dortmund I felt like we saw some glimpses of maybe his potential link-up play, and I feel like Pep has, stunted his growth a bit in that area because
Uh-huh.
I feel like Pep just wants him to be that target man after years of City not having like that striker up front.
Yeah.
He realizes that he has all these technical players in midfield on the wings. He plays with a lot of overlapping fullbacks as well. So he just wants Haaland to be that player to get in position and score goals. But now we see without the final third threat in KDB, without his passes, how it seems like Haaland has regressed a bit. And I feel like that's in part to Pep stunting his overall game as a bit.
Mm.
So
I
what are your thoughts on that? You feel the same way or
I do agree because I think if Pep wanted him to be a really like technical striker, he would work with him in that regard. But what I've seen
yeah.
since Haaland has come is just that listen, you stay where you are, we can get the ball out to you. It's similar to like what he did to some extent with Thierry Henry at Barca. He told him to
Yeah.
hug the touchline at all times. So like when you're given instructions by Pep, you just have to do it because Henry was talking once that there was a situation where he came in to get the ball, he ran, and eventually they got a goal because he didn't listen
Yeah.
to the instruction.
Hmm.
So Pep is one of those, I guess, to some people, narcissistic kind of guys that if he gives you a
Yeah.
command, then you have to run with it. And indeed, I think
Hmm.
it has stunted Haaland's growth a bit because Haaland had a really good link-up play. I think when Bellingham was, they were there together, and of course Marco Royce and so on. And that wasn't one of those teams that
With him and Sancho, I think I
was.
saw it the most.
Yeah, Sancho as well. So like they played really well together and they had
Hmm.
good link of play. But remember, these people that he was playing with at Dortmund, none of them were like KDB in the sense that
Yeah.
KDB doesn't
Yeah.
pass for passing sake. He passes to kill you. Like I remember that one goal that he scored in the Manchester Derby, right? When KDB somehow passed that ball right around the defenders and Haaland was on the slide and scored a goal on the near post of United. I just I sit and I just try.
The thing is, like the way I see KDB, like the thing that some midfielders try to do with like a lot of passes, KDB can just do it one.
I agree. KDB is just second to none. Like
Yeah.
even at Wolfsburg when he was now developing, he had
Mm.
this real precision pass, and he already calculates the game before. But Ron, you can
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about some London teams, but not Chelsea. So, sitting at the top of the league currently are two teams from London. Now, in the case of Arsenal, we would have discussed previously that Arsenal did not play their best football, but some would say it's a mark of an ascending team or a very good team when they can win games without playing their best football. They're currently sitting in second. So, as a Chelsea fan, how would you assess Arsenal? And do you think that though they fell short last season, that this season they could probably take it all the way, or do you think that there is going to be same story as last season?
well for me certainly I don't think that Arsenal has what it takes to actually dethrone City. Um, I think the closest team that we've had for the longest while was Liverpool. And given
Hmm.
Liverpool's current woes, I don't think anybody can actually overthrow City. So while City are in a slump currently, I think they'll recover well. And they'll eventually go on to win the Premier League. Then mark this, and we'll go back to it. As a Chelsea fan, it pains me to admit. Um, but when you look at Arsenal, Arsenal needed to invest a bit better. And this is not me just hating as a Chelsea fan, but you can't invest in a guy like Kai Havertz to take you to another level when City has Julian Alvarez and
Hello, first of all, that guy won y'all the Champions League, right?
he
Respect.
certainly did. I
Respect.
all respect due to Havertz, but based on the current form of Kai Havertz,
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
that doesn't take that doesn't carry the Arsenal take over the line. They did invest wisely with Declan Rice, I must say. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I like what he does. I think that he's quite an effective defensive.
I think he's class, honestly.
Yeah, and
I do think he's a bit overrated, maybe the English
yeah,
type
he
a bit,
is.
but
I think
I do think he's very good.
I agree.
And I agree, it was a wise investment.
It was
And
that
that
was probably the only investment. But anything else, when you look at it,
Mm.
Arsenal needs a clinical. Just as Chelsea, they need a clinical goal scorer. You can't be relying on Eddie and Ketty and Gabriel Jesus.
Wow, when Petty is not
No,
in your room.
maybe Osimhen, maybe they can go for Osimhen.
Maybe
He's
they
not.
can.
I could tell he's not happy at Napoli.
Well, certainly after they posted some quite problematic
Yeah,
problematic
very
videos.
ridiculous.
But yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Tottenham this season. Actually, Ange Ball,
Absolutely.
they've been
Hmm.
playing well. But I too still believe
But will it last?
exactly. That's what I was now about to say. I
mean, like he said earlier, right? Like City can have like the worst slump at the beginning of the year, but then come around in June, they'll lift the title.
yeah, it's consistency. I mean, Pep and
Mhm.
and just let me segue back to Keith's original point. Um, with Pep and Arteta's game being a messy one. With Pep, he's a man of his philosophy, and he's a
Hmm.
physical guy. And win, lose, or die, he's going down with it. And that's something that you need as a manager. And he's ruthless about it. And when he's ruthless about it, he doesn't care who suffers. So I don't see Arteta having that. Arteta may be an excellent copy of Pep, but I don't see him being that ruthless. I don't think
Mhm.
I don't think
Yeah.
he has the credential or the accomplishment to be that ruthless. But I mean, I wish Arsenal all the best. I'm not going to even be a hater. That hating London neighbor. No, I'm not going to do that. I would love to see Silent City so that the Premier League doesn't become a farmers league. We must beat that allegation that we're now farmers league because City.
No, I don't think the Prem will ever be called a farmers league just because
Nope.
of the amount of the investment into it. They have it's the most watched league in the world,
Yeah,
and yeah,
But
and
people have, Chris,
it's
people have
definitely the
already been
most
calling it that.
entertaining. Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
Oh, sorry, no, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I mean, like, people have already, just to Lemar's point, people have actually, I've been seeing a lot on social media, people have been saying that the league has become a farmers league because City's won, like, what, 5 in the last 6 years? That is
Yeah, I
ridiculous.
myself have said the same statement, but like I don't actually believe it.
It could be as more release.
Probably. I mean, I guess, but in terms of entertainment, I don't think like when you hear a farmers league, I think about like a boring league, like probably the Bundesliga. You're always winning all the time,
Or
like
League
every
One.
single time. City always gets pushed. I feel, but
yeah.
even though they always end up winning, I feel like City, like almost every year, there's at least some point in the season where you're like, maybe this time they give you like some false hope, but then they end up with the title later. But
Mhm.
with the Bundesliga now and Liga, you already know. Just mark it for Bayern and mark it for PSG.
Well, before we go back to the topic of Arsenal and Tottenham, I actually have an interesting take on City's dominance. Actually, I'm of the opinion that City, even though City were treble winners last season, which is an extremely great accomplishment, especially to
Yeah,
do it out
definitely.
of the Premier League. I actually don't think that City was as dominant, let's say, last season in the Prem as they were maybe 2, 3 seasons ago when they were at their 100-point peak and they were like, slapping everybody in the league. I City is more at this stage where they've become serial winners as opposed to necessarily like dominating every game on the field. I guess the winning culture is such that
Yeah, but
even though they might not be playing at
Ron,
their best, but the result is still the same.
yeah, but like I feel like it shows game management from them. I feel like they're managing their games better in the Prem. In that 100 point season, they didn't win the Champions League, they didn't win the treble. So they're diverting their efforts into other competitions now, and it ended up with them actually winning their first Champions League. So I think I think if they sacrifice maybe a few points in the Prem for that trophy, I think it's well worth it for them.
I think that's a fair assessment. So Kai Havertz, given that Kai Havertz is 24, I mean, objectively, in any other profession, if you're 24 and not doing that well, people would say, well, you have time. This is sports. This is football. Is there any chance that Kai Havertz, let's say by 26, is going to actually expectations that he had at Leverkusen, or do you think that Kai Havertz from here is going to have like a James Rodriguez type career of just randomly bouncing from team to team, or a Coutinho type where you just fade into mid-table club, or is he going to actually probably stay at Arsenal and maybe potentially become a squad player or something?
So the thing about Kai Havertz, right, is people
Mhm.
people usually suggest that he is a false nine, but I believe he's a false footballer. Um,
Oh my God. No,
What?
no,
I'm
man, no,
joking. I'm joking. I'm
no.
joking. Let me answer the question. So, so yeah, the
He
thing
is
about
an
Kai
attacking
Havertz, I
midfielder,
think
right? Let me just
he's
get that first.
he's a prisoner of his own talent and gifts, because
Mm,
I think he should have figured out a position that he's actually most comfortable with by now, and really hone his skill in that area. Because at Leverkusen, he was allowed to play on the right wing and cut inside with his left foot. He was given that free roam position, but mostly popped up on the right wing, and he was allowed to be his creative best. But the thing about the Bundesliga, it allowed him time to think, not just only time to think, but the physicality of the Bundesliga didn't affect him as how the Premier League does. Because with the Premier League, as we were just mentioning with Kevin De Bruyne, he usually already thinks like five different moves ahead. With Kai Havertz now, although he does it, he requires much more time, and I don't think
mm,
the Premier League affords him that time, because by the time you turn, a guy already on his foot, tackling him, giving him a hard body check, and so
Mm.
he
Mhm.
basically gets bodied out
Too
to the
much in his head.
yeah, and then too, something that I think, I know we didn't really think about talking about this too much, but the mental health of players
Mhm.
recently comes into focus, because
Definitely.
like these guys go through a lot mentally, especially especially coming from a club like Chelsea. I mean, you need that additional help for your mental health, and I think Kai Havertz is is suffering from a bit of fear, and I don't know how he's going to deal with that. Maybe he can and his confidence on the field improves, and he becomes like this Thomas Muller interpreter of space type of player that he's supposed to be. Or unfortunately, I mean, he's 24. He has time to get a college degree, and but the thing, because it's sad, because like every player that played multiple positions Even to Kimmich. Look at Kimmich. Kimmich now is an excellent CDM, but he used to be a right back. You don't see him trying to be a right
Actually,
back
that was
anymore.
temporary. To be fair,
Yeah, but you don't see him ever trying to go
yeah,
back to be a right back.
hmm
He
yeah, definitely not.
took command of this central
Yeah,
defensive
exactly.
midfield position. And another player um that was just like that is Ruben Loftus Cheek. You see what happened to Ruben? He became a utility player. You don't want that label. That label used to be good, especially if you get a manager like Thomas Tuchel. You will definitely utilize you utility player. You right wing and all of these things, and and you won't get to develop. So you need to focus on one thing. Like look at Arsenal. Arsenal fans are currently going through the Chelsea fan sickness because we used to be like, okay, he's going to be a good centre forward. Then no, put him in his best position, central midfield. No, put him in his best position. He's not a central
Attacking mid.
wing. Put him on the right wing. Now they're gonna be like, okay. Then they're going to look back at all of his Leverkusen compilation and be like, oh, he used to be so good.
What could have been?
Could have been. And my last point is the pressure of being so good at a young age. I don't think many players manage to
Yeah,
translate that pressure into. And I think again, I think it's Keith mentioned the likes of Ronaldo and Messi, what they've done to us and our expectations.
yeah.
It ruins these current players because I expect Kai to become a regen of Ronaldo, and get goals, but maybe he.
No one has ever said that, Lemar.
No, I mean,
I don't know if as a Chelsea fan you had that delusion,
no, people,
but
people said that he was generational. People said that he was a generational talent. I'm in no way suggesting that he would have become Ronaldo or Messi, but I'm just talking about the expectation or the quality that he possesses. People expect him to become a generational talent, and really and truly, only players that comes close to generational talent have been Mbappe and Haaland, and even to them, we criticize them a lot because they
you're
just.
missing a name, Vinicius. Anyway, continue.
But yeah, just because they don't live up to, and that's a very good name though, Chris, because Vinicius at one point I thought
Yeah, he was terrible.
he was very terrible. He was so annoying.
In front of goal. No, as a footballer, he had like all the right tools, but like in front of goal, something used to happen. Like
Yeah,
I remember this one time, it was just him on the goal, and somehow I don't know how this is physically possible, but Keith, you gotta do some calculations for this. But this ball literally, like he was right in front of the goal, and he ended up skying the ball over the top bar.
yeah, no, he's so lethal. I wish we had a Vinicius at Chelsea, but it is what it is, you know. We can't.
Well, didn't y'all have your own version of him at one point?
I
Callum
was just
Hudson.
about to say that actually. I
Yeah,
actually think Callum Hudson-Odoi did not get a fair opportunity at Chelsea.
Yeah, probably.
yeah, and that's why he's gonna probably need to go to college
I
just
think
now because
what wasn't like that during the era when Lampard just ended up buying in a ton of players,
no,
and
what happened to
he just
Callum,
fell
right?
out of favor or
He
something.
got injured. Him and Ruben,
Mhm.
he
Yeah.
most
That's serious.
injury, which
Mhm.
is sad because right when he broke into Chelsea's team under Sarri, he got an injury, and in recovering from that, Chelsea had a lot of fiasco apart from the change.
Wow, I didn't even realize he was there that long.
Yeah,
He
he
made
was
his
actually
debut at
one of
like
the
18 or something.
yeah,
Wow.
very good, very good. At one point, Bayern wanted him. He was
Yeah.
that good.
Yeah, I remember him. Like, I really thought he would have become something really good, but it goes to show that, injuries really can curtail a career,
Yeah,
like even at a very young age. And I mean, that's why sometimes I look at people like that gets like injuries like young and like, for example, right at Chelsea, Reece James. Like, I look at Reece James and I ask
Was
myself, will he make it to like maybe even like 28 at a top level with the injuries he's already been having?
that makes me so sad, man, because like he at one point I felt like was the most complete right back in the world. Like everything you want, like
Yeah, he probably
defense,
is.
attacking ability,
Or
technical ability while attacking as well. Like
Yeah,
I
honest.
thought he rivaled Trent at one point in terms of attacking, but
Uh-huh.
also like his defensive prowess, he could shut down anybody.
Yeah, he's much more complete, and I think Reece James, like honestly, is the best right back in the world. Like on his day, he is the best
Yeah.
right back in the world. Like I
But
mean, for example, he got a perfect balance to me of what you would want with attack and
mhm,
defense.
hmm
yeah,
he's like
I remember
an
in
Ashley Cole on the
Yeah. Yep.
mhm.
Yep.
I remember this one Lemar, you remember the Chelsea game, the second leg at the Bernabeu. Like he did so well with Vinicius in that game.
Yeah.
Like the only person I ever saw lock Vinicius better was Kyle Walker.
The
But
last season, yeah.
yeah, and the season before, to be fair,
I
and
don't think you
like
see Hazard described Kyle Walker's ability so well. What has this is why I really loved Hazard. I love Hazard to me is what Messi and Ronaldo is to a lot of people. For one
Mm,
simple reason that he made me fall in love with football, and
mm.
he showed me that
yeah,
your mind is extremely important. Because what he said about Kyle Walker, he was like, he realized that he can't outrun Kyle Walker. So
yeah,
he did,
definitely not. You can't outpace him at all. You need to either beat him with some trick or flair or
trickery.
something.
and you can't even try that too much. So you have to be
Exactly, because he's so good, like
physically imposing as well.
mentally,
So
and he would know where you're going as well. He studies the
exactly,
game
that's
like
why
so well too.
Hazard, very good guy, man. Sad to see what happened to him.
And yeah,
Absolutely.
it's definitely very sad. But like he's one of those players where you just like need to watch in order to like realize what he brings to the game. If you look at the stats, I don't think it does him any justice. He's not like that an output machine like maybe a Salah or other winger, but he's like that traditional winger in terms of like his technical ability.
I think in terms of ball carrying, other than Messi, was probably the best ball carrier in the
Like
last
really,
Like it was
10 years.
between him, Messi, and Neymar in terms of like dribbling. I would feel like, and like you said,
Close
carrying the ball.
control is something
Yeah,
because he's the only person that technically he just used to chuck around you, but because his close control, the ball was like on a string on his
yeah,
foot. So when he
yeah,
changed directions, you going the other way, you head into South London, he going to West London. It's like, yeah, so it's like he was say definitely probably was my favorite team player.
ah,
Yes, but it's unfortunate,
too
that
bad.
his
Yeah,
career ended prematurely.
I will always hate Munier
Yeah, well,
for that tackle. Like it was so ridiculous.
Yeah, talking about injuries and stuff, fellas, I just want to point out that Neymar was just carted off in Brazil's game against
Really?
Uruguay.
yep.
Yeah, so
Oh my
injured,
gosh.
injured again.
Oh my god.
He's in
that's
tears.
well,
Wow.
it's
That's
hard to
very
judge
sad.
tears when it comes with Neymar, but hopefully,
Run, come on. Not the time, man.
but speaking of injuries, Lemar had mentioned that Arsenal needs to invest wisely. So Keith, coming into
Mhm.
this season, Arsenal bought Timber, who was a target of Manchester United last season. Now Timber is about
Injured.
5'10", so he's within that range of defender where, but Cannavaro was only 5'10". So
Mm.
I think that
I
was a
was
wise
just about to say the
investment.
same thing.
Yeah. Do you think that was a wise investment on their part, given the fact that they had Saliba and Martinelli, and technically have a centre back playing currently? So to buy an who, well, I mean, unfortunately, he tore his ACL. At the never got to see him play. Would have displaced Gabriel, or whether you would have as a left back. But do you think that was a wise on their part?
I think it was more like I guess a frightened kind of buy because they saw what happened with Saliba last season, and after he went down, the entire defense fell apart. Timber
Mm.
himself can play as a centre back, but he can also play as a right back, and at Ajax, it is Ajax, yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we should
Timber.
specify Yuri and Timber since they're twins, and the other one plays, I believe, at PSV.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. But yeah, like he is from Ajax and he plays really well. He's very good on the ball, good composure, and all these different things. So I think it was a good buy for them. Unfortunately, he got injured because when Saliba went down and you had the makeshift of that defense that Arsenal had, it was absolutely terrible. When Saliba went, so did their title hopes, right? I don't think they
Mm.
wanted a repeat of that. It's unfortunate that he got I think if I were them, I would have looked at him as a necessary buy. And I think going into the future, he could be like a major player for them if he, regains fitness and he comes back well from that injury. But no, Arsenal, they also got to take into account, and maybe in the spring, when the
Mm.
transfer window opens for like the spring, they may want to bring another defender in because they cannot have a repeat of what happened in the situation with Saliba. Because I know they don't trust. They got rid of Rob Holding. I think he's at Crystal Palace now, right?
That
So
was
he's
a
gone.
good room.
Yeah, so they got him away. But if you, let's say, for example, Gabriel or Saliba gets injured, you're gonna probably put Ben White in there. I don't think from what I've seen, I don't think what's his name Arteta trusts Tomiyasu that much.
Mm.
Tomiyasu is one
Mm.
of those hit or miss players on his day, and I know the rest of the team itself. Like I don't trust Zinchenko to defend anybody proper.
That's a fact.
Yeah, yeah, I don't trust Zinchenko. So as long as Gabriel and Saliba are, fit, then that defense is strong. But if an injury hits and they don't have somebody solid to step into that role, then that entire team crumbles again. Because I don't expect, like what Pep did with City when you had Rodri playing in centre back, I don't expect to see Declan Rice playing in centre back position at all. So I don't see him going there. And I think right now Arsenal is an injury away from their entire season plan going down the drain because now they're not just in you know, just playing for the Prem and all these different. You're playing for Europe as well, like they're in the Champions League. So you got a flight.
Yeah, not
That's
for
more
long.
wow, but a lot more flight time. Now you got like people gonna be jet lagged. A lot more injuries, much more likely to come. I don't think Arteta is that great as Pep when it comes to man management or game management
He
rather.
isn't. I don't.
Well,
He certainly isn't.
yeah, he isn't. So he's gonna run that team into the. I expect.
I mean, look what he's been doing to Saka. I mean, I thought you would have rested him for the Bournemouth game at least,
Exactly, and like before
rather
this game,
than risk him, and then he ended up picking up another injury. It was ridiculous.
yeah, I saw a stat in which Saka before the City game, he's started 81 consecutive games, and I'm like, what are they trying to do?
That is terrible. That I understand he's a young player, but you need to manage your star players especially better.
Exactly, and this is the beginning of the season. Like certain teams that they've been playing, like it's much more likely you could do that rotational something that Pep does and so on. I get it for the back end of the season, you want these players fresh. But if you're gonna clocking these mileage on them now, by the time February, when City
Yeah.
picks up their pace, I expect Arsenal to be put in a spliff. That's why right now I'm actually not worried about Arsenal. I'm not saying they're not a great team. I think they are a great team. They're playing great. Well, not even great football. It's just better than most right now. But I think when everybody catches up, and let's say we come back from Christmas and it's crunch time, I expect to see them have an exponential decline.
The thing is, Timber, you could view it as a valuable buy, but
Mhm.
I would have personally hoped that Arsenal would have gone for like a right back, like Fresneda, for example, and
Mhm.
Valladolid had been relegated, so he would have come on a cheap, and he's only 19, but I feel like Arteta's development of young players has been decent. I felt like he
Mhm.
could have developed into something. Maybe coming down if you had another injury to the centre back position, maybe you slot Ben White in as the centre back, as like the centre back, which is his favorite position, and you pair him with either Saliba or Gabriel, and you would also have Tomiyasu, who is more of like a defensive right back as well, to come in and help as well. I didn't like the idea of him also loaning out Tierney.
I could never
Um,
understand it.
yeah, I don't understand it because like especially when you're playing in all these competitions, like especially in Europe, you want to have that ability to rotate certain players, and I think Tierney is a decent left back, and he could start many games, maybe ahead of Zinchenko if you want to rest him. So
I think Tierney is better than Zinchenko.
Yeah, I said
I think going forward maybe, but like and Zinchenko is like he's stated that he likes to play more of like a center mid role. So I don't think Tierney is better all around, but like I think going forward and technical ability definitely.
I said this earlier, and I think the downfall of Arsenal will be their poor investment. They invested
Mm.
just because they want. I mean, City has
I mean Smith Rowe. Look at Smith Rowe as well.
City.
Yeah.
Look at City laid the foundation and the blueprint.
These
No
are
pun intended.
investments from the past.
No pun intended. But City laid the blueprint of
Mhm.
correct investment. You must have at least two quality players for every single position. But what Arteta did, he invested
Mm.
in the wrong areas. You don't
He invested in the starting 11 alone.
you don't need Kai Havertz. I would have gone for me personally at right back. I would have gone for a guy from Leverkusen, Frimpong.
Jeremy Doku, not Doku,
Frimpong.
Frimpong.
Frimpong,
Yeah.
yeah. You
Yeah,
need
he's
to.
class.
Why are you investing in Timber when you have Ben White and
Mhm.
Gabriel and Saliba? The three of them could rotate, and you could probably use even the holding. I mean, but you're looking at City, and I think what he did, he tried to fast track Arsenal's development, which is required again. City makes you do these things, like they go ahead of your game plan,
Yeah.
and he's now in a position where his investment was poor, absolutely poor. No one can change my
I even
opinion.
feel like Tomiyasu could be better as a centre back as opposed to a right back. So I don't feel like that position was needed, and it turned out to be a bad investment for this season at least because Timber just went off injured.
I mean, after the successive eighth place finishes, he was trying to fast track their development due to fear of getting sacked. So,
I don't think his job was in danger after that season, though. We saw that Arsenal is at least on an upward trajectory. So, like, I felt like his job was, a bit safe for the time being. I don't think he needed to fast track anything.
Yeah, like I totally agree with that. Like I look at Arsenal and you gotta trust the process. I know it's probably an overused statement, but you gotta trust the process. And like,
Ron's favorite saying.
yeah, but
mhm.
I think the last transfer window, what they've tried to do is like, in one, they're just trying to rush and catch up to City. I mean, I think City purposely bid for wanted to carry up the asking
Yeah,
price.
they
So
just run up the price. Yeah.
run up the
I
price. So
was
we may try
discussing
to
this in the
spend a
mod
lot of
group,
money.
and that's exactly what
But I
happened.
think it could be like a chess move by City to some extent because look at
Mhm.
where Arsenal like spent that amount of money. Kai Havertz, 63 million, I believe. That is ridiculous. And then you pay over 100 mil, like I guess around 100 mil for Declan Rice. And like in just two positions alone, you spend that money. Then you got Timbers you brought in as well. So easily you have a team like you have a owner like Cronky. They don't like spend money, period. And I think what Arteta probably saw is that listen, these people willing to probably give us 200 mil now, and chances are they're not going to give us what, maybe a next year, a year and a half. So let's see how we can make
Mm.
investments that going forward into the future, or like right now and into the future, they may pay off. And I just think, like Lemar said, they were terrible investments. I would not buy Kai Havertz. Like, why would I buy Kai Havertz into a team like Arsenal? They don't need somebody like him. You got to strengthen the areas that really, really let you down last season, and it's the defense. And not just going out and just be like, oh, let me find anybody who could probably be a utility player like centre back or right back. You want somebody who really fits into the system that you have, or that you're developing. Definitely for Arsenal, I think they have like one of the youngest squad. So I would definitely have gone for somebody young, somebody like similar to you were talking about, Chris.
Mhm.
Somebody who's willing, hungry, and all these different things. Timber could be very well be that, but we won't know because he's on the medical bed right now. So I guess when he comes back, we'll
Yeah.
have that sort of assessment of him. But I think Arsenal they will pay in the future for the mistakes of this summer.
Okay. Fair, fair. So just before we move off from this topic, well, in the last game we had a red card, Basuma, but I think that Basuma is probably the catalyst along with Son and Madison for top performance this season. He's been an engine in the midfield. So how would you guys rate Basuma's start to this season?
I feel like he's progressed decently this season. At least I felt like he's made a jump. I don't know how much the system that Postecoglou is playing, is positively affecting him. But I like what I'm seeing so far from him.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, Lima.
he's certainly one of the players of the season so far. I mean, we're only a few games in, but he's now relishing that role next to Sar. Um,
Mhm.
he has the freedom to not just do the dirty work, but show the creativity that he possesses.
Yeah, take the ball forward
Yeah,
and
and carry the ball. And he's I hope I don't jinx him, although I don't believe in that. But he reminds me of someone that Ron would be familiar with, that played at Manchester United, that is currently being investigated for a drug related incident. But he's called I mean,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
it's sad that I have to mention it like that. But yeah, Basuma. I mean, he's been excellent. Um, that tackle, that red card offense. I mean, in my opinion, if it varies. You can have your own take on it and what's not. But I don't think it was that bad. I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, excellent. And I think he needs to now, but be disciplined if Tottenham are to make any sustained push at City's title. I don't think they're title challengers to say, because Son is an excellent player, but they don't have another proven goal scorer. I think that's the plight of everyone except
they
City.
got Richarlison, but we
Yeah,
talking about.
that one celebrated World Cup goal that every
He actually scored two
They
goals
just
in the World Cup,
milking.
by the way. But
no, but that
They
bicycle is
milk.
probably the
They,
only goal every
but they
Tottenham
were
fan will ever score.
spectacular.
They were,
They were good.
they were. But look at City though. City has Alvarez. I mean, the glut of riches. Boy, City has Alvarez and Haaland to turn from.
Listen, if Alvarez is ever unhappy, I take him in a heartbeat at Real.
Personally,
I take Haaland. I take Haaland too. Since y'all saying he's not technical enough and
no, I
everything.
don't need anybody that's. I just need people to score right now. We need
But like,
somebody to do it.
we think about Nicholas Jackson though,
I
Lemar.
actually love him.
Yeah,
But
I think he's getting in
That's
all the right positions.
crazy.
It's just that no, I think he's getting in all the right positions, but like he's suffering from like the Darwin syndrome, where you just get in front of goal and you do nonsense. But he did score a brilliant goal against Burnley the last
He's
game.
this again, people. I think we gotta realize that Nicholas is now
Players take
playing for
time.
the league. This is his
Yeah,
first
players take
season.
time, man.
Yeah, and he's one of the strikers that I actually am pleased with. I love his work rate. He does
Yeah, same. I agree.
all of the off the ball work extremely well. His hold up play is better than I expected. I didn't expect him, and when I see him take the ball I mean, maybe anybody from Kai Havertz will seem as a big improvement.
Lemar, he's not your player anymore. Stop throwing shade at him.
Maybe it's because I lacked any type of quality. You guys don't know the tears in my eyes. To watch.
I remember one time when Lemar told me that Mason Mount was better than Valverde.
Yeah,
I almost felt my
I
food.
publicly apologize for that.
Yeah, the pain I'm feeling right now is
Yeah.
So wait. While we're on the topic of apologies, Ron, can you apologize as well for saying Pogba is on the same level as Kevin De Bruyne?
At one point,
All right, first of all, at one point, right? At one point, it was a discussion. I'm not saying he was, but it was a discussion.
I would say if you put Pogba
wait,
in
we
that
talking
team,
Manu Pogba or France Pogba?
Exactly. And also there was a
That's the
season
thing.
when Pogba had 12 assists. Though Kevin De Bruyne will miss more games in that season in 2018 when City obliterated
Pogba
with
at his
100 points.
peak was class.
So simple question, fellas. Simple question, right? Y'all have a game, right?
I'm
You
taking
want
Kevin De Bruyne. Yes, thank you very much. Next question.
Ron?
Is insane. But here's the thing, right?
Wait,
It
first of all,
depends on what
you're
you
taking
need.
Pogba over KDB.
Okay, let's say about
One game for your
25
life.
in international football, and definitely
First of
taking
all, at
Pogba over
20,
Kevin De Bruyne.
all right, in international, all right. Well,
And
here's a
as a matter of
discussion.
fact, let me
We
put
know
it this way:
KDB hates.
I
We
have
know
a
KDB
defensive
hates that red shirt.
if I have a defensive midfielder team, then I would definitely take Kevin De Bruyne over any other midfielder pass in my team.
No, to be
However,
fair,
if you need a
KDB's
box to
performance for
box player
Belgium,
who's also going to aid you,
since 2018.
then you better off with Pogba Prime. But career wise, obviously Kevin De Bruyne has had a superior career in terms of being consistent from, let's say, 22 to now, while Pogba had highs, lows, highs, lows, highs, lows. I think Pogba is very similar to like in the look of a Hazard, of a player who probably never truly utilized the fullest extent of talent. His talent is undeniable, but never truly like how Kevin De Bruyne produced. And maybe you could say that it's down to
Hazard ate a lot.
management.
Was Pogba's excuse?
I guess mentality issue, but Pogba is
It's
whose
a Manu
brand
issue, to be fair.
his brand is bigger than his actual play, in the sense that he did not need to play well to make money. Well, there's some players who don't have any. You need to go there and perform.
Man, haircuts worth more to him than Manu.
To a point Lemar was making earlier on, though, like I can have some sympathy on Pogba, on just the general basis. Like, sad reality is, in this generation, we really have to consider like people's mental health and
Yeah,
whatnot,
that's true.
and the things that Pogba had to go through, KDB didn't. For example, in the sense of like racism.
Racism, yeah.
Like, that's a major thing I think that everybody just overlooks. Like, thinking, okay, these players are so strong and they should just be fine, right? But Pogba, every time he did well, he did well. Like, oh, he
Yeah.
was French, but the moment he didn't do well, he was always this black this and black that, and it was so unfortunate to see some of the criticism you'd see online to somebody like Pogba. And that's something Kevin De Bruyne never had to deal with.
Yeah.
He also had to deal with
So
opponents who used to just be roasting him in the
Exactly.
media.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. He is
Like-
ridiculous.
Like regardless
yeah,
of
Like, there's this YouTube like comedian that does like these impressions, and like everything he just attributes to Pogba. Like,
yeah, I know that guy.
yeah,
But it's true, like,
it's
lame
Sorry,
everything. I don't know how he keeps bringing Pogba into the situation. Like,
yeah,
even if
Pogba's
Pogba
not even
plays
that
well,
man anymore, and he
Pogba
like
could
he still goes on.
Pogba could drop a 10 out of 10, and it might be like, the problem is Paul Pogba. Anyways, like like Ron said, right? I feel like if like at their peak, like honestly, if I wanted like a complete player to run the midfield, like the entire midfield, I would probably choose Pogba.
Yeah.
KDB is more like that player that I would trust to deliver that ball into the final third, and he does that so well. He could find any player making that run to the box like so easily. But in terms of like dictating play throughout the entire midfield, I think Pogba has the edge in that area because he's more like that center mid player rather as opposed to KDB, who's more like that attacking mid, like final third threat.
Fair assessment. I guess I can live with something like that. It depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, well, back to Nicholas Jackson. How is Nicholas Jackson different from Tammy Abraham Lemar? Like, in terms of why do you think he would be given any more time to develop than Tammy? And do you think that it was that Nicholas Jackson should be given this time to develop when a player like Tammy Abraham was shipped away after a few seasons?
Okay, so two things that I would argue. One, the manager is extremely important. Poch is extremely different from club legend Frank Lampard and, and the great Thomas Tuchel.
I know you cry saying the name.
Yeah, I did. But Poch, I think what Nicholas Jackson offers Poch um, is a dynamic striker. Um, if you see, I watched the preseason. I mean, the preseason wasn't enough to judge, but even the Burnley game when Jackson came on late, you see exactly what he offers. Again, I reiterate his hold up play. Tammy had that, but what Tammy didn't have was his awareness in the box that Nicholas Jackson has. Nicholas Jackson has that predatorial instinct. It reminds me of Drogba. And I'm not just saying this like every striker that comes to Chelsea does
Good
for that.
lord.
You say um, he reminds me of Drogba. He's a striker, right? But Drogba, this is why many people would say Drogba is one of the greats. Although Drogba wasn't that prolific, I believe Nicholas Jackson will develop into one of those predatory striker that shows up in big games and wins titles and trophies for Chelsea. And I just don't think Tammy Abraham has had that ability. Because even at Roma, under a coach like Jose Mourinho, Tammy should have been firing on all cylinders. But I see that he started off like what he did at Chelsea. Gives you a few matches. Yeah, this guy is probably going to become a great striker, and then he just goes. And as Keith pointed out earlier, there's some players that will just be extremely good at the championship level, like Dwight Gill. He's a championship cult
Mhm.
hero. But transition into the
Yeah.
Premier League, he just didn't. And Tammy
Mhm.
Abraham, I think he would, as he did in multiple occasions, he was the top scorer for the championship. And at a team like Chelsea, I don't think Tammy Abraham survives. But a guy like
Mhm.
Nicholas Jackson, he has that dog in him. He has that predator
Don't
instinct.
worry, we will revisit this take in
For
like a
sure,
year or
for
two.
sure. I put it on put it on public record that Nicholas Jackson
Well, after
will be challenging for the gold.
one takes and his what is that guy's in Bakayoko takes years ago? Who knows? But
No, that's different. I publicly apologize for that
Mason,
too. Bakayoko
Mason Mount,
told
boy.
me a lie. I mean, of all the players, look at the Bernardo Silva, Mbappe, and Chelsea go out and buy Bakayoko from Monaco. Wow, wow. Every you see these players, Bernardo Fabinho, and we gonna buy Bakayoko. My gosh. Yeah, I apologize. It's one of the things about me. I don't be afraid to say that I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong with Bakayoko. I was wrong with Mason Mount. I was wrong. You know, it happens.
well, before we move off of Chelsea, so what do you think is Chelsea's prospect for the season? Both you and Keith.
Well,
Avoid relegation.
nah, as a Chelsea fan, um, I, I well, just so you know, the Premier League there's this possibility there's the possibility that the Premier League may have an extra spot for the Champions League,
Mm.
which
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
I,
Go
I
ahead.
I think Chelsea's a decent finish given the fact that we don't have any external European tournament to focus on.
Mhm.
I think it works in our favor. We just need to get over this injury slump. Like look at the fact that we haven't even added Lavia and Kunku to our team as yet. Reece James has been injured. So I think once these guys recover,
And Kuku coming back this season?
yeah. Within actually
Oh, okay.
it is touted that he'll be back after the international break. Whether that happens
Oh,
or not is
interesting.
still to be seen. But when he comes back, add Lavia to that mix. And I think when Potts is given the time, Chelsea will have a very good project. I hate that word, but our project is going well. And I think we're going to be in the top 4 at the end of the season. It's very tight. It's a
My brother in Christ. First of all,
game, but
first of all, right?
but besides to cut loose 2 other trophies and focus on the Champions League so that he could be back to back. We time to sneak in the top 4. You never know what.
Lemar, let's be realistic, right? Like, have you seen your schedule for the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, when we beat Arsenal on the 21st, we beat every single. We beat.
All right, guys. Next topic.
Okay, so Keith, what is your take forward this season?
I think Chelsea, they're gonna progress from 11th, and they very much might finish 9th.
Fair enough.
Because I'm being real. They're not finishing above Tottenham, Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Brighton, Newcastle. They're just not. So I think realistically they could look at maybe 7th to 9th, and I guarantee you, if they do that, then it's an excellent season for them.
Okay. Well, speaking of mid-table battles, my beloved Manchester United. Currently sitting pretty in 10th. And well, first of all, let's look at the points. It's been 8 games, 12 points, so we're clearly doing well. We're only 1 point ahead of Chelsea. So for all the jokes you're making about Chelsea and how poor Chelsea started the season, we essentially started.
You can't laugh too hard.
Just as poor. So first off, let's look at Manchester United's signings this past transfer of Mason Mount, who was once highly rated by Lemar. So I'll ask Lemar first. How do you think Mount's performance is so far at Manchester United?
As one of my great friends would say, he is a passion merchant. Oh, I love life, how the tables have turned.
Yep.
But I think Mason Mount to Manchester United was a fairly okay move. I won't say bad, I won't say good. And I think he's performed as expected, in that you can't put Mason Mount in a team that has Bruno Fernandes already and expects him to become this assist god and this Kevin De Bruyne regen. No, he's going to give you energy. He's going to give you tenacity every game. He's going to run and win the ball back sometime. But again,
more energy. More
energy and passion is all that he's Ten Hag. Which makes me question Ten Hag's manager.
Eye for talent?
Yeah, because why would you buy Mason Mount when you have
2 players of the same profile, exactly. Eriksen and Fernandes?
And even to Scott McTominay, if you want energy, you have Scott McTominay.
Hey, first of all, right? He saved y'all last weekend, right?
Exactly.
With those 2 goals.
And since
I remember
our great
I remember this.
Leads are no longer here, you have to score them against somebody.
I remember one game. Ron was like cussing out this man before the game, saying he has bang average. The man went to score a hat trick. Instead of celebrating, Ron was like, why? Now they won't drop him.
Exactly, man. But I really hope, like some other fans are hating on him and praying that he gets injured and all that. But I hope he has I don't ever wish that on any player, but I just don't think he was was what man you needed.
Choice.
Yeah. You guys needed a real goal scoring right winger, and you got your striker, and you needed an extra defensive midfielder, which is quite strange that Amrabat is now playing at left back.
Well, that's due to the injuries.
Injuries.
Yeah.
All of our left backs are injured. Clearly, something is wrong with left players.
But yeah, I mean, I think he'll do what Ten Hag wants him to do, but is it what Man U needs? I don't
No.
think so.
So Keith, given essentially the noisy neighbors, and I guess you're accustomed to watching midfields run exceptionally well in terms of balance.
Yes.
The Mount isn't that. In a sense, I would say Mount is a passion merchant, but he's definitely about 2 to 3 times better football than Scott McTominay. However, he's pretty balanced in the midfield. If Ericsson is playing, we're going to get overrun. If it's just
Mhm.
Casemiro offensive, because we've been playing Mount on the right, sometimes Bruno on the right, etc. So, how would you balance United's midfield with the current players that we have?
Oof, I mean that's a tough one with the current ones that you have because no matter what, right? We get it. The two people who will definitely slot in there will be Bruno and Casemiro, right? Now it's a matter of who else will come into that team and add balance. At this point in his career, Casemiro's like his legs are going or almost gone, so you can't expect him to every game be that defensive, strong man to give the team that. And we already know that Bruno, like he plays well when everything is going well, but then he starts whining more than a girl at carnival. So when things not going well,
Chris,
you can't defend. You can't depend on him, right, to defend. And I think that's a problem, an issue, like with a lot of top clubs nowadays, is that like back in the days you get it that defending starts from the front. I think that's an ideology is kind of been going. And I think Bruno is one of those person who encapsulates why it's gone. He doesn't like defending. You rarely see him back defending, right? And even if he loses the ball, he doesn't drop back. I don't want to speak too much on him though. So, but we'll just say Casemiro and him starting. Ericsson, absolutely not. I wouldn't put Ericsson in there to be the person because he's also very slow. I think if you're looking for like an energetic midfield and all that, you can't depend on having Bruno and Ericsson in the same team. That's an imbalance right there. Casemiro gonna have to do a gigantic amount of work, and he just can't do that anymore. Mount, I think if Mount adapts his game to actually just do a lot more, like accept that you got to do a good amount of defending, then I think he would be able to slot into that place. He wouldn't be like as far up as Bruno, but at the same time, he could be like that linkage between
Like a number
Casemiro.
8.
Yeah, like yeah, something like that. But I mean, is he technically gifted enough to do that together? But I think because of his youth, you can train him into that. I'm not sure if Ten Hag is the man to do it though. I'm not saying Ten Hag has to go or he has to go. I just don't know if Ten Hag would be the coach to do it with him. But given his age and given like his ability to be coached, I think I would for the foreseeable future, which is maybe the next 2 years, I would try to make that Bruno Casemiro Mount midfield work because I just don't see McTominay like passion merchant, absolute passion merchant. Some day games he's gonna be good. You bring him off the bench in the late to close out the game, sure. Ericsson can start, but I think it's usually got to be a swap between him and Bruno to be honest because neither of them gives you like a solid work rate, and I don't think anybody can disagree with that. They will play great passes into the final third, but they will not defend. And like in a team like Man United, that you can't really always depend on the defense, especially right now, given that Nana is in goal. You got to be very, very cautious. You need everybody back helping. So I think I mean it's crazy. It probably sounds crazy, but I would do Mount, and I would do Casemiro, and I would do Bruno.
So, well, how does Amrabat fit into the whole equation?
Amrabat is currently what he's been is a utility player. Like, the thing
Mm,
that the title that Lemar said nobody wants?
yeah,
Because I saw that guy come in. Like, I remember watching him. He's from Morocco, correct?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I watched him at the World Cup, and like he was really good. And he was playing like roughly like the CDM-ish kind of role in the World Cup, and he was excellent at it. Whether or not our like Man United will completely go to like having two CDMs and like a CAM in Bruno, maybe that can help them out. But I just don't understand what Ten Hag is doing with him. And because I don't understand what Ten Hag is doing with him, that's why I didn't slot him in. Otherwise, I would have slotted it in, and I would have been fine playing with two CDM and a CAM.
Yeah.
But because like I just don't see what's the vision right now. Because Ten Hag had that guy playing at what was it right back or? Like,
Let
Yeah,
like
I think that's attributed to the injuries though mostly.
I
Because all of their left backs are injured, so like he just had him slotted in there.
I
But
get
like
that, but still, like
I
I just
think I
no.
think for this season at least, to salvage this season, you probably have to go with like I would say like once you get your full squad back, you'd have to go with your two CDMs and your attacking midfield in Bruno, and hope that you play Dallo, you play Regulon. Hopefully, their overlapping actually counteracts your lack of technical ability in midfield.
do you think Lemar that could could essentially facilitate on the right given our struggle? I mean, I think Pelestri should be given a chance, but at the same time, you can't put all your hopes on a young player. But do you think that Monk has the ability to play out Bruno playing out right?
I think Monk can. Um, but again, is he going to be that effective? Because he's not going to run past anybody with blistering pace. He doesn't have
The next Frank Lampard.
yeah, he doesn't have that much dribbling ability. And again, Monk ideal position is a little bit
The bench.
yeah on the bench, but a little bit beneath the not necessarily an eight, but a little bit beneath the central attacking midfielder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's very good, and he tracks back a bit, but on the right.
Yeah.
Again, man, if man you're going to be serious title challengers, you didn't need to invest in a guy like Mason Mount. You needed
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
a serious right winger, cuts in and plays quality football. And again, poor investment by Man U, Chelsea at certain points, Arsenal, even to Liverpool. Not poor investment, but lack of funds. They'll cause City to run away with the league easily, and it's quite.
I actually don't think the midfield investments were that poor this season for Liverpool at least. It's just that, the CDM, that's a spot that, we're definitely locking in.
Yeah. I could agree with that.
Thanks for stealing Caicedo and Latvia.
Yeah, I
I
actually
could
think last year is a player that United considered as opposed to
exactly as
Mount,
opposed to
but
Mason Mount.
Well,
eh,
in the future, though,
You
I
know,
think United should probably look to like integrate Amrabat as the lone pivot eventually because Casemiro's
yeah,
legs,
yeah,
like he said, they're almost gone. I don't think
yeah.
he'll be very good for much longer. Thanks for the 60 million anyway. But
Ha ha
I
ha
don't
ha
think
ha ha.
I think I think I think maybe like like he said, you could look to maybe try to make Mount that eight, that classic number
Mm.
eight. But I don't know how well it will work out. I do think, as Lemar pointed out, he's good at tracking back as well. He can hold up play a bit, but is he technical enough to like control the midfield as the number eight?
And I think he also he has poor decision making sometimes because
mm-hmm.
he holds
I feel like
back
those are
too
things he
much.
can improve on though.
Yeah. I
Like his
agree. I
decision.
would agree. I would agree.
Hmm.
Ron, I have one question left on like this Man United thing before we even move on,
Mm.
right? So we see City, they are like the perennial, champions nowadays. We accept
Mm.
that. We saw the project that Arsenal started with Arteta, and it's continuing, it's going well. We see what's going on with Liverpool and even the rebuild with Dominic Szoboszlai and everything of that sort, and McAllister and how they've been doing well, Gapco and all these guys. We
Mm.
see the turmoil that Chelsea's in, but I'm sure they'll figure it out in years to come. Uh, what do you think Man United's project is? I'm finding it like hard to wrap my head around what y'all are trying to do.
Okay, well, for me, here's
Cue
what
blaming the Glazers.
Okay, I mean, I could, but I'm gonna ignore that for the sake of time. But I think Ten Hag is trying to play. I would say that every manager within the last 6 years is essentially playing a quasi version or some version of evolved into their own with their own spices. I think he's trying to do the whole ball playing goalkeeper, gives the ball to a deep line midfielder who transitions into the final third. So essentially, what Ajax was in 2018, well, could save to Frank Young, who was taking the ball from, you know, running through the midfield and then into the final third to Tadic or to or he would invert the wingers, so like Hakim Ziyech or stuff like that. But I find that what's happened at Manchester United is that first of all, he did not get to sign Frankie de Jong when he initially came, so we never truly got that transitional player. And Bruno Fernandes nor Ericsson, who were players that were either there or signed, could actually fill that void. So now we're just trying to play to the strength of the current players as opposed to buying the players that fit the manager's mold. And as Christopher has been saying, that I think part of the blame is on Ten Hag for not this that you could have probably bought a player that could play. So by month attempted to buy that he didn't get was who would have probably filled or performed the way he wants him to perform. There is a player who he did sign who might not actually, as he has had some good signings, like Casemiro's player last season, Martinez, before his foot injury was very good. And that Hoy would start his Manchester United career, especially given his experience. But then if you look at the Antony's and Ericsson since his injury, they've not been particularly good. And well, we can't really rate him last year because he's been out all season, but he was good when he played. So I think United is a club that, as Lemar said, is currently poor investment, and I don't know if the players have the right mentality. Like I don't know if a player like Rashford has the mentality to take United from a team that's fighting for top four to a club that is actually winning championships. We have this. I think our players, when we concede, they actually start to crumble mentally. Like you see it on their face. There's no, oh, we're gonna come back. There's no like, yeah, we're waiting on Fergie time type magic. It's just like it's when we're high, and when we're low, we're very low. And I think that's what's happening right now. I think there's a mentality issue for sure. But speaking of mentality issues and the mind, you are a keeper yourself. Do you think there's a way back for Onana, or do you think it's like he's making these mistakes because of mental, like the pressure of playing at United, or is it a case where he just lacks the necessary technical ability to be a good keeper at the top level?
Well, honestly, from what I've seen, I've watched Onana play over the last couple of years, and I don't think he lacks anything. I think what's going on with him right now is definitely the transition from Inter Milan to United. He came, he saw like his attitude. I think that's why a lot of people are bashing him because when he came, he started yelling at Maguire and he started to do all these unnecessary things that kind of villainize him to a lot of people, you know? So, no, it's really a position where a lot of people are just looking at him and be like, oh, he's too cocky, he's overconfident. He's very arrogant, and like people are actually hoping for him to fail. Like I am not though, like because of what I've seen over the years. Like he does have the technical abilities with his feet. He has reasonably good handling skill. Is he a bit pragmatic that he runs off his line too much, and you may worry about it, obviously. But that's a risk you take in today's game. I think he can salvage his United career. I just think he needs to calm down, shut out the noise of outside, and just try to play his game like the way he can and the way he has done in the past. And I think he can really revolutionize how United play out from the back in the years to come. Like if he's given a chance. Because when you like, for example, when De Gea first came, I mean he didn't have that rough of a patch, but when De Gea first came to United, you know, he was like this frail, he wasn't that imposing, he wasn't very good coming out to claim ball out to the air and all those kind of stuff. But those are things that you know you can work on. And in his case, I think maybe he just like this mental block that's been like up lately because of the mistakes and all those kind of stuff is gonna play into effect. And I think in, for example, in England and the pressure of Man United, everybody just trying to get your back straight to the top. Every mistake he makes seems like another nail in the coffin. of Man United's chance at winning something. So he's gonna feel that pressure a lot more than maybe even at Inter Milan, because I mean Inter Milan is Inter Milan, but like they're not the same stature or magnitude as United, even though they're winning in Italy. Like I mean, I think anybody reasonable person would accept that, right?
Yeah.
And currently, like the United fans and everybody's like, it's been 10 years really since you're like being on that high. And if you bring somebody in and if you get rid of a club legend like David De Gea, then whoever comes in must like kind of hit the ground running. And because he hasn't done that, I think a lot of people have turned on him. But I think he has like chances are maybe he has between now and the and maybe Christmas or right after Christmas to salvage his season, because I feel as though like even the organization at some point might be like, okay, listen, we might have to go look for a backup in the spring, and that's not something that he'd want, because if that happens, then I think effectively he can probably kiss his United's career goodbye.
The interesting thing is that United actually signed another keeper this summer. I mean, you would assume he's not a first choice keeper right off the bat. But if Onana goes off for the African Cup of Nations, I think that could probably be the end of his time as a first team player at United.
Yeah, I think exactly. Unless he does something between now and then to really like, solidify his role in that team. But like some of the clips you've seen lately, I'm sure everybody's seen them, watching the games and so on. Like I just don't know where his head is at. It seems as though like he's on the field, but he's not mentally there. And the mistakes that he's making, like he just would not make those within the last maybe 2 to 3 years that I've been watching him. And it's kind of sad because, I'm always for, let's be real, I'm always for like black goalkeepers doing really well. That's why when Edward Mendy came into the Prem and he was at Chelsea, I really wanted him to do well, even with Robert Sanchez at Chelsea again. Like I want these guys to do really, really well because, it's a good look because you don't see a lot of black goalkeepers growing up. I'm probably only know like two. There was this Camino one that used to play in La Liga, and there was Mandanda from France, right, that used to play for Marseille. So now you're seeing a lot more of them getting chances. And to see somebody as prolific as Onana go through all this thing, it's kind of a bad look because I think it kind of pushes back the development of a lot of African keepers. And people might not think, oh, it's that drastic, but I do think it is.
Mhm.
Okay, one last topic on one last question on United. So for Lemar and Keith and Chris, so how do you think Ireland has started? And joint question: do you think that Rashford should be benched for someone like Garnacho or anybody at this point, really? Because let me just say, I think he should be benched. But how do you think Ireland has started his United career?
I'm actually a huge fan of Hoyland. I really didn't expect him to be. I mean, obviously, he hasn't been prolific in the Premier League as yet, but I love how he looked in the Champions League. I didn't expect him to be that. He has that. Again, I may be repetitive, but he has that dog in him. He's a
Mm.
hard working player. I love the fact that he can carry the ball. He's a good dribbler. His hold up play is excellent for a not so tall or as his namesake and city rival would be, Haaland. He's very good at holding up the ball, and I didn't realize that he had so much interlinking play, and he was so good. I really like him.
To
He
the
looks
extent he got a rugby tackled by Gabriel, but that's another story.
Yeah, he looks like one of those, like one of those players, right? That is a footballer and is not like this workaholic or this fraud. You don't put him on fraud watch. You be like, yeah, this guy will come good. You know that this guy will come good, and I think he will definitely come good. I saw that he got a little injury today, which I hope it's nothing serious. But yeah, he'll go on to be a very good player for Man U. I'd like for Chelsea to have picked up someone like him. But it happens.
But you have the next Drogba.
Yeah, we have Drogba and Armando Broya will survive with the two of them for now. But yeah, and kudos to Man U, and I hope that he does extremely well for the rest of the season. He's a very good player. I can't even complain about him.
Yeah, I think similarly Hoyland. I looked at the work rate he puts in, and like it's phenomenal. Like you could see the hunger, you could see the passion, like the things that are lacking from people who've been at that club for so many years. He is just coming and like revitalize his squad. He's kind of similar to like Garnacho. Like every time I see Garnacho play, I really like Garnacho as well. I think maybe like in his case, too much pressure is being put on Garnacho, but I really do like Holland. Hoyland. I think he has great technical ability. Work rate is phenomenal. I think he's like a definite scorer of goals. And I think in the years to come, if United do what they need to do with him properly, I think he could definitely lead the online for years to come, at least maybe 5 years. And he could really just start hitting that point of 20, 25 goals a season that, like the United forwards are usually accustomed to. Maybe not last decade, but I really do like him. And to the question of Rashford being benched, I think Rashford has had so many opportunities to
Yeah.
just take a United's team forward, and he has failed at every single interval. And I'm not saying, it's his fault alone, but like when I see him play football, it's like he has no passion. It's like he's the opposite sometimes to how Hoyland is on the field. Like he has some games where he's like, oh, he's really into it. But there are other times, Ron, that I could not tell that this young man came through United's academy because it does not show that he has that kind of love and that desire to push for the club. His body language isn't good.
Yeah.
Like I know on international breaks and so on, sometimes he just goes and parties and all these different stuff. I don't think he's focused, and he's just like at this point accepting that the United fans will always stand behind him because he's homegrown. But
Man
Rashford,
born and bred.
yeah, born and bred, So like I think he just feels as though no matter what, they're just gonna stick with him. But I think definitely Ten Hag should consider benching him, maybe a game or two and see how he reacts to that. And if it's negative, then I mean that's a whole different conversation that y'all might need to have.
Well, any thoughts from you, Chris?
Yeah, I think they covered everything on Highland. I'm actually very impressed with him as well. Um, but let me just zero in on Rashford for a minute. Like Keith said, he had, at least from what I've seen this season, he definitely doesn't seem hungry enough. I'm not saying he hasn't been for goals because I feel like he's trying too hard to score rather than just being integrated with the team.
Hmm.
Because I remember in the Galatasaray game, for example, he was carrying the ball. He made a great run, but like all he had to do was slot the ball to Hoyland, and he just held up the play too much. I feel like he got caught like maybe in tunnel vision a bit. Like I need to score right now, but then he realized the defender came in. All right, so now I'll pass. But by then it was too late. So I think he needs to buy into the role of a traditional winger more rather than just looking to score. Because I mean, you always appreciate your killer instinct from a winger. I mean, growing up watching Ronaldo and Messi, but I think Rashford just needs to understand what United needs as a team right now. Hoyland is the goal scorer. You need to be able to support him. And maybe after that Galatasaray game, it may be the last straw for Ten Hag. Maybe Garnacho would buy into that system where, listen, I need to provide service in for Hoyland rather than Rashford, who is just who has an eye for goal and, it's impeding the rest of the team.
No, Viva Garnacho. Well, we move on to Liverpool. Now, Liverpool drew 2-2 with Brighton, and Brighton is a team that probably deserves a whole video on their it phenomenal a season and a half now, and their manager deserves a lot of props. So in this game, scored 2 goals, including a penalty, but it wasn't sufficient to dispatch Brighton. So first was the resident Liverpool fan. How do you feel about Liverpool start this season? They're currently up. They're only 1 point behind City. They're very much
Honestly,
but
I don't think we have the defensive stability to win the league. We don't have like that Fabinho type of player who can cover the back line, cover their mistakes. Van Dijk has taken a step back. I don't know if Konate is ready to like lead that line. And Matip hasn't looked at his best either. And Trent and Robertson, they're not the best defensively. Robertson would try. We know Trent. I don't think I need to say anything about Trent. But I feel like the midfield, the work rate in the midfield has been decent to like cover for that lack of a CDM at times, but it's not enough. At attacking wise, I think we've been fine. But yeah,
But that's one for. Do you think it's time that Kanate is in the starting 11? I mean, he starts a lot of games for France. He played the World Cup final.
I believe. I don't think. I think Klopp is a bit hesitant to bench Van Dijk, given what Van Dijk has done over the years. But I think in some games you definitely need to, or at least start him with Van Dijk and bench Matip.
I think Matip needs to be sold at this point. He usually gets injured at the most unfortunate time for y'all.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Kanata needs to nail down that starting spot, and he deserves it at this point because France, if it's one thing France especially has, is a lot of players in every single position, and everyone is knocking at Kanata's door for that French starting spot. And if he doesn't play consistently at club level, unlike Southgate, Deschamps won't be loyal to him. So he needs that, and Liverpool definitely needs to start transitioning from the back line that they have. I mean, Van Dijk is not the Van Dijk of 3 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago. He's certainly been found out, and a lot of people don't fear him as they used to. And I think he has to realize that very quickly because there are a lot of strikers in the Premier League and players in general who are going to go at him and are going to take him on. Because there was one point, I think it's the 18-19 season when he was not dribbled past for like an entire, like almost the whole season.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that season.
Should have won the Ballon d'Or in my opinion, but defenders don't get that credit.
Oh boy.
People don't fear him anymore, and I think Liverpool needs to start. And that's one of the beautiful things that I like about Pep. Pep, as much as he's loyal to his players, Pep is about seasons. And when he sees that your time is up, look at Aymeric Laporte. At one point, I think Pep moved on from him when he was at the top of his game, which was sad to see. But Klopp being loyal to Van Dijk does him no favor because Liverpool is not that stable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
so like the question was about Kanate and holding on the spot. I think yeah, definitely at this point he should be like starting. I think Kanate is definitely good enough to continuously start. Matip, time to transition, like everybody was saying. Van Dijk has been found out. There's no fear factor there. And if there's no fear factor in a defender, then people are just more likely to just come at you. I think one thing with Ramos, for example, he always had that fear factor because people were afraid that he'll kill them.
Yep.
So like there's always that to worry about. But with Van Dijk, like he just sometimes try to play too cool and casual, and it's led to quite a few mistakes over the last year or so, like in his game. So I don't think he's really at that point anymore. He's a bit gone by that. I think Chris, is he at least 30 now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
well into his 30s, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's still
He's
relatively,
30.
I guess, not that bad, but 32, right? So
Well,
yeah,
he
it's
should
about
still be-
time. Matip,
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, like
Yeah,
again,
centre
let's
backs usually age well, but
they usually age well, but like that's not the game anymore a lot of times, So I don't expect. I think within the next season to two, they should look to just completely transition. Whatever they're gonna do with the rest of the back line, that's whatever. But I think they look at Van Dijk at this rock, and he's just not that rock anymore. He's not a pebble, but he's not a rock.
And what about Joe Gomez in this whole equation? He's consistently now. you would think at 26 you would be a starter. So
I don't
player
think
that needs to be sold or
I think he's one of those players that, he's a squad player, but he's not good enough to start week in, week out.
so he's saying he's
That's been my
Oxlade
opinion of
Chamberlain.
him. He's what?
Alex Oxlade
Oh,
Chamberlain.
Oxlade. Basically, but for the defense.
Yeah, I agree with Chris with that. Like I look at him play so much. I've never been impressed by anything he's done.
Yeah.
I think he has a bit of pace, and I mean that helps sometimes. But beyond that, it's never like, wow, this guy looks like he'd really hold down a starting place for a club like Liverpool. So I don't know. It's about time they figure out really what they want to do with him.
As it relates to the rest of the backline, Keith, I've been advocating for
You'll see
the midfield signings. I think the midfield signings have been decent, to be honest. It's just that lack of a pivot for me. How like, but I feel like the midfield signings, a lot of them probably weren't like. I think we have Gravenberg now. They're all appreciated, but I've actually been advocating for us to buy a right back and move Trent higher up into midfield. I do think it'll do wonders for him. It'll be good for him. And I think he'll be more comfortable there. Or if not, you buy a defensive midfielder and have him cover Trent's defensive lapses like Henderson and Fabinho did in the prime Liverpool year, which was like 2019, 2020, those years.
You know, just one point on that, Christopher. Like, I really just feel sorry for Liverpool fans because for the prime years that you think a team would absolutely dominate, bro, they have just only one prem to show for it. Yeah, they got the
Yeah, it's
UCL as
just
well.
one prem, and like I felt like that 2021 season with all that injuries, I don't think they ever came back like to be the same team. I mean, they had 2022 where they came back, they were challenging for the quadruple at one point, but then they on the last day City just stole the league, and then they faced Madrid in the final. So
Yeah, that was really
yeah,
just sad. But yeah, like historically, when you look back at this period, like we can remember how well they played for like many years,
yeah,
but they just don't
yeah,
have enough to show
the
for it.
trophy, yeah,
And that just says how good City has been. Like that's ridiculous.
yeah, that's true.
And well, Real, because Real beat them in two UCL finals. So
Yeah, facts. I could live with that, to be honest, because I mean I'm a Real Madrid fan before anything else.
yeah. See.
And well, finally for the Premier League, there's Newcastle, and this is a two-part discussion. So, firstly, Newcastle have not started the season that well in the Prem, but they had a historic win over PSG in the Champions League. They essentially demolished PSG. So we'll segue from the Prem
I
into
loved
the.
it. I was there no matter what. I loved it, and I think I deserved it.
So how do y'all think Newcastle are going to do this season? And given their performance in Champions League, are we looking at a season where they might not be doing that well in the Prem, but they'll be competing in Europe?
No.
Certainly that might be the case. I mean,
No.
I'm sure why I think it might be the case because that's the beauty of the Champions League. You have a team like Monaco,
Mm-hmm.
you have a team like Dortmund that can come one year and threaten to meet the finals and these things out of absolutely nowhere. No one expects
Yeah.
to. So there's the beauty of the cup competitions. And I think Newcastle could push it because who's going to expect Dan Burn to be heading in goals?
I didn't even expect Dan Burn to still be at Newcastle this season. I honestly thought it
Exactly.
was going to be sold. Guys, just
Beauty.
centre back and left back.
Exactly. And that's the funny thing. And that's why I love the Champions League. Now imagine someone waking up from a coma in Newcastle at the Champions League final. That's absolutely
Dan
painful.
Burn double.
But yeah, I think they will perform well. Um, and I mean, this is me. I want to be a hater, because why are they in there? Chelsea's been carrying the Premier League and winning this. Okay, I'm not gonna be
You have two. You have two.
but
Two.
But I think they're gonna go, and I really hope that this is not a case with them being found out in the Premier League because absolutely no one is intimidated by them anymore, and everybody seems to be taking points from them. Them and them and Brighton has been very very poor this season. So let me see how it goes for them in the Premier League. But certainly, I think they will perform well in the Champions League. And look the group that they're in. Dortmund
AC Milan.
and
I actually have Newcastle going through from that group, by the
yeah,
way.
so
And I
Yeah, you did
currently,
make
it
that
is looking like
wild
a good thing.
prediction.
Yeah, currently is going well.
Yeah, I think they make quarterfinals if that far. Like, I don't see them going beyond the quarterfinals.
Mm.
But I
So
mean, that'd be a still good run for returning to the Champions League after how many of decades, right? So that's pretty good. In the league, I just think like they're a hit and miss. Like I watched them play a couple of times this season. I watched them play against City. It was so poor. Watch them in other games. It was much better. But like, it's not been anything like substantial to make me feel as though like this team will push on. I think the addition of Sandro Tonali is great, but now with all of this situation that I guess we'll
Yeah,
get
the
to,
gambling
that
situation.
we'll
Yeah,
get to soon. Yeah, like if they lose him, yeah, it's gonna go downhill. Like he's been phenomenal for them so far, but everything else has just been average. Like I mean, I guess when we say average, I mean average for a team who's actually on the come,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Because that's what Newcastle are. Because I mean, last season they exceeded expectations for sure. So I feel like now it's just like, all right, cool, they're doing well, but I just don't see them back in the top four next season. I don't see them in the top four.
Outside of Erling Haaland and Alvarez at City, we could probably say that Isaac is probably the next best
Facts.
forward striker.
His technical ability is actually very impressive, to be
That
honest.
is scary.
His hold up play, yeah. His only problem is that he gets injured a lot.
Yeah, he
It's
has
an
the
absolute
frame
ball.
of a Somalian.
Yeah,
Whoa, true, but yo.
he literally does.
that's wild.
He literally it's like Rodrigo is not beating those allegations either.
First of all, leave my Bengali king alone.
Bengali
My
King is
boy from Bangladesh.
crazy.
Speaking about boys from Bangladesh,
Wow.
Madrid faced off against Napoli and it was a bang of a
Best game of
continue
the
his form
UCL
and
so
it's
far.
just you and of course an own goal which decided the game. So how do we
That was a
first
Valverde goal. I'm sorry. That's a Valverde goal. We're
Mhm.
not calling that an own goal. That was a clear Valverde goal.
so in terms of Real Madrid, yeah, I mean they usually find it in the Champions League, but they have what it takes this season to replicate the magic of years past. I mean, this past decade was the Real Madrid decade in world football. Um, so do we see with the right that they could make another deep Champions League run, or do we think that it might be a bit out this season?
When you say deep, right? Like, how far are you talking? Like the
If I
final?
speak, I am
Like
in trouble.
semifinals, yeah,
I think,
semifinals.
I mean, Real Madrid is Real Madrid. Somehow, some way, they gonna find a way to make it some way that far. I just don't think they'll win it, but I definitely think they can make the Champions League semis.
Go ahead, Lemar.
Yeah, I certainly think they'll make it. I mean, it's Real Madrid after all. It's
Yeah.
practically their competition. So as against them is to bet against. I don't.
Lemar, what has Chelsea done to you? I remember like 2 seasons ago, you'd be like, if they play Chelsea, oh gosh, they'll lose.
That's how you would.
Well, I guess they can't play Chelsea, right?
They
So,
can't play
Yeah,
Chelsea right
well,
now.
so
I'm forced to support them.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Anyway, like I think Bellingham is the most informed player in the world right now.
He
He
is.
has been exceptional. These are like these numbers. I won't say they're Ronaldo numbers because anyway, no one is comparable to Ronaldo except probably Messi. But we look at when you look at the rest of the team, though, I think they've been performing very well. Cruz has been exceptional when he plays. Chouameni as the pivot, Valverde, I feel like he's the most complete midfielder in the world right now. Even Rodrigo, his output has been terrible. You won't see him on the stat sheet, but I feel like he's been linking up play well. Vinicius, he's just returning from injury. I'm happy that he's gotten on the score sheet in these past few games. He's been playing well, even though he started struggling in this new formation initially at the beginning of the season. Rudiger had Osimhen in his pocket this entire game. I don't think, like, for the aerial duels, I don't think Osimhen came out on top for a single one of them. Carvajal has been
Motivated to
impressive.
do so.
That's true. That's another thing, but still. Carvajal has been exceptional this entire season so far. And I think that's attributed a bit to Valverde playing along him on that right-hand side. So, like, when Carvajal goes up, goes forward to link up play with the attack, Valverde can slot back in. And Camavinga, what can I say about Camavinga? He just wins that ball so much. Anyway, and Kepa has been decent throughout the season, and he's filling big gloves. Courtois
Literally.
left, yeah, literally, and we're missing Alaba, we're missing our best centre back Milita, who's out for the season. So I don't know if we'll win it, but you can never count us out in this competition.
Well, speaking of not counting teams out, and Leipzig, the most tired game that seems to happen every year with the same results.
Yeah, I'm fed up with this matchup, honestly.
But City looked great. They had 69% possession, 5 shots on target of 18. Accuracy. That's like some Tony Cruz, Modric level stuff. So essentially, they completely dominated this game, despite the fact they did not keep a clean sheet. Now, obviously, City are the defending champions, so I would expect them to make it probably, potentially. I would say turn to the finals to them would probably be a disappointment given the state of European football at the moment. Yeah, but can't factor in for injuries and stuff like that. Anything is possible. But City look very good in Europe at the moment, and they don't look to be one bit.
I think they're the most complete team in the world, like start to finish. Like,
yeah, I feel as though if we make it like, well, I'm sure we will. So like when February comes and everybody's fit, then it'll be hell for the rest of Europe.
And
like honestly, I wouldn't bet against us doing a repeat of it. To be honest, like as long as everybody's fit, I can see us doing that.
And Jack Grealish will probably get cirrhosis. But also teams like Barcelona, who the Giants beat Porto 1-0.
Round the 16 exit.
See Barcelona going, and on the point of Barcelona, I believe they got a new chairman or something, and he was saying that Gavi and De Jong and one other player, I would feel
Pedri?
very Pedri. Yeah,
Yamal.
Pedri, he said. There were some other names, but there were a lot of notable, and obviously, so I guess we might be seeing a shake-up in Barcelona soon. But how do they're teaming a lot of young talents like Jules Koundé and Balde and so on.
Yamal.
Yeah, Yamal. And
he's been very good. Like I don't think I've seen a talent this good in a while. Like at his age.
16 is crazy.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, it's like the Messi entrance into world football. So
yeah, let's just hope he lives up to
that. Yeah, I think he's probably might be like at that age, like probably the best talent since Messi probably.
Yeah, well, hopefully his legs don't fry into the ground like Iniesta by
exactly.
28, 29, 30 and Xavi. But we hope that he's much better because those guys had some miles on their legs by 25.
Even if those guys are still like argue like the top, like in the conversation for like top 3 midfielders of all time. So or at least top 4.
But given all this high praise you're heaping on these young talents,
Yeah,
how far do you see them?
he
And
should be
we
winning
should
like
also give
9 Ballon d'Ors.
a special shout out to Ter Stegen, who's actually been very good in the last couple of seasons,
Yeah,
and he's a keeper that
yeah, that's
like under the radar, but is
ever
general
since that hair transplant, he's been different.
facts,
World Cup.
facts. So how far? I mean, Chris makes the exit, but any chance of them making a deep run?
I see them
Oh.
I just said that because I'm a Barca hater, by the way.
semi-finals for me.
Semi-finals for Barca,
Yeah.
really.
Wow.
I see
Seriously?
quarter. I see quarter.
I see Quart at best, to be honest. Like being completely impartial, like I see Quart at best.
I need to see who they get in drawn against in the round of 16 and
Yeah.
quarterfinals. But I feel like they've been doing well, yes, but they still lack, impetus. And I feel if they run into certain teams, certainly, I mean, Bayern might not be playing well, but if they run into Bayern, I feel Bayern will chop them up.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of teams that may or may not be, so Arsenal faced off against, and somehow they managed to lose this game, which is a bit of a surprise given the fact that they seem to
Is it really?
go in that direction, and they're definitely in the easiest group, bar
Yeah.
maybe City. So, what was your reaction to this game? Was this a surprise or
It's Arsenal. Nothing surprises me anymore.
nothing shocked you
Yeah,
anymore?
like
You've seen
I just they don't have the squad depth to be doing
After they
complex.
bottled the league last year,
Yeah, they just don't have the squad depth, Ron. I think that comes back to what I was saying earlier when we were talking about them. They just don't have the squad depth to be actually challenging on both fronts. This is just like their introductory season back into the UCL.
mm,
Maybe around the 16 if so much, and you just keep it pushing. Like you're not really expecting too much.
mm. And well, talking about low expectations, Manchester United won the Champions League. Won to Bayern, which was probably expected, even though the game was a close most people expect. But this game, Galatasaray is actually a complete bot. Shout out to Haaland, who scored a complete solo goal from the halfway line, running into the box, and thankfully did not pass to Rashford ahead in the 17th minute. No, this game, I believe, also has is not just the fact that they're now at the bottom of their group, but they also will not have Casemiro probably for the remaining.
who gave the pass to the second goal though?
I cannot remember, to be honest.
Rashford.
The first goal
I'm sure it was Rashford.
was Rashford because he passed the ball.
The
Or
first goal was Rashford.
the first goal
I
was
thought it was the second. Anyway, I need to check it.
with the
But Rashford wasn't completely useless this game.
no,
It's
but
just that
he did.
that
He
move.
did. It was that sequence where he should have
Yeah,
passed
yeah, exactly. He should have passed it earlier.
or
He just waited too long.
really halftime, but we allowed that to link into him, and eventually had essentially crazy because first it seemed sacrifice because he carried missed, but then on to score like
The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah.
Mauro Icardi.
so.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I
mm,
don't think anybody had high expectations of Man United, but Man United fans, and I don't know why the expectations are so high. They probably will not be making it out this group, and if they do make it out the group, I think that is a phenomenal achievement for them, and they'll be going home in the round of 16. So it is what it is.
The Europa League boss.
Exactly. They should,
Dun, 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 dun.
they should just go to the Europa League and maybe stand a better chance. But then if they go play
They won't
Sevilla,
do anything there either, cause
Sevilla.
yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Sevilla is cooking. Sevilla is
What I
in
would
third
say.
place in their group right now. Just-
I
They're just
told
hoping to go back to the Europa
Christopher
League.
that if United loses to Galatasaray at Old Trafford, that they're not going to make it out this group. No, I guess anything's possible, but I personally don't see that happening. I don't see them beating Galatasaray. I just want to do work. in football, like generally.
Yep.
And obviously that's with Bayern, and that's Bayern. So they're in a tough spot there, but we will see what happens with them.
Yeah.
And that we already discussed Newcastle, but what about Dortmund and Milan's prospects currently in this group?
Did Milan draw again or did they win?
Milan drew against Dortmund, yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's 2 draws for them.
yeah, they're sitting in third. Dortmund is in fourth because Dortmund drew one. PSG is in second, and Newcastle is out. So it's a case with the team that you probably would have make it out of this. So how do you think this group is going to go from here? Who's going to make it out? Who's going to, or is it going to remain just how it is?
I think Milan and Newcastle makes it out.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing, Lemar.
So y'all have P crashing out in the group stage.
Absolutely.
Well,
the thing is with PSG, how they've been playing, like I saw a meme saying, I wouldn't wish being a CDM for Luis Enrique for anybody because he is just destroying Manuel Ugarte right now.
Bro, like, to be fair,
why are you playing Mbappe in midfield as an attacking midfield? Play him out wide. You have 2 strikers on the team. Play him in his favorite position or play him as a striker. Anything. Why are you putting him in midfield?
Bro, they've played 8 matches in Ligue 1. They've won 4, drawn 3.
Yeah, it's
lost
ridiculous.
1. They're in third. They're in third in Ligue 1.
Yeah, that's like being in Syria and like 16th in Prem.
Somebody gotta be giving Mbappe death threats or something to stay.
Yeah, like I mean, to be honest, you're only 2 points off the top because the rest of the team's not that amazing anyway. But at the same time, look at this league. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
So I just don't like that team isn't playing well. I watched them play one game, like a bit of a game that they were playing in League One, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And then I watched them in the Champions League, the highlights and so on versus Newcastle. They were put into a spliff, bro. Like it was ridiculous. And I don't see them going to the San Siro and necessarily fearing that well either. Or going to, Dortmund Stadium either.
I actually think the best thing about them going to the San Siro will be seeing Rafael against Hakimi. Other than that, it's really just like, well,
Leo definitely needs to work on his finishing in front of goal, though. I mean, he does well to like get the ball from here to there, but in front of goal, he needs to be better.
Yeah,
that's fair. That's a fair assessment. Probably.
But I don't understand Luis Enrique, man. You have the players. Like I actually thought PSG did a decent job during the summer. Like to me, this looks like a football team rather than just 11 good players. Like, I mean, I thought Ugarte was a good buy. You have Fabian Ruiz, you have Vitinha, you have this guy that used to play for Valencia, I think it's Soler.
There's also Emery or whatever that guy's name is.
Yeah, and you have, I think they brought in is Kolo Muani and Gonzalo Ramos. So you have 2
probably
strikers.
Not a great move on their part. Even though Kolo Muani could play as a winger, he made his breakout into football as a forward. So
exactly. You can play him as a forward, play Mbappe out wide. Like, I don't get why.
But then where does Dembele fit if you do that?
Right wing, and he's been terrible even as at right wing. So I don't know. Dembele, like I don't know what's up with Dembele right now.
Probably missed the hospitals in Spain.
Barca actually dodged a bullet because I thought he was one of their best players last season, and him going there, I thought it was a big loss for them. But no,
had one good season finally.
Yeah, but Yamal has his break. He has just been so good for them, so I don't think they're missing him too much.
Well, speaking of
or at all, to be honest.
Newcastle going forward, maybe Mason Tonali. So this is a general discussion, not just specific. So how do y'all feel about gambling in sports in general? Okay, I would say there's one thing. If you're betting against your own team, which
Mhm.
Ivan Tony did do, in the grand scheme of things, they probably were going to lose. I don't think he actually purposely played bad. It's like, yeah, we're not gonna beat City, so why would I? But I wonder, do you all think it's actually a bet on yourself? Because a few years ago when Floyd Mayweather fought Conor McGregor, who is not a boxer, so the odds of him winning against one of the greatest boxers, and Floyd attempted to place a few $1 million on a bet that he himself would beat Conor McGregor. This is essentially betting on himself, which is what sports is in a nutshell. But however, this is something that's prohibited, and he was prohibited from placing that bet about sports betting when it's in favor of your own team or yourself winning a game.
I am absolutely against it personally. I think what happens because nothing happens in a vacuum, especially when it comes to sport, right? You're gonna bet, you're gonna probably get in some sort of collusion with somebody in
Mm-hmm.
some way, some
Match
bookie,
fix. Yeah.
something. Exactly. And then you're gonna, tarnish. Who knows? Like if you perform, you would probably actually perform badly because the payoff is gonna be a lot, you know, and those kind of stuff. So I'm totally against it. Like for example, I've noticed become a big problem now in overall, like just the sport betting in itself. Like today, like a Juventus player, Nicolo Fagiolo, was
Mm-hmm.
given a
Yeah.
7 months ban today from the Italian Sports Commission for betting. And technically it's a year, but if he does 6 months of course therapy for gambling addiction, then he'll get 7 months instead. So he has to do that. We already know the story of Sandro Tonali and his agent saying that he has an addiction to gambling. We know what happened with Ivan Tony, addiction to gambling again, and he got that 8 month ban. So it's becoming a lot more prevalent, and it's clear to see like a lot of these players are turning to gambling, and it's not even just seen as casual gambling; it's seen as like an addiction. Hence, them getting reduced kind of, I guess, sentences just so that they can actually go to like medical facilities and so on. Because just like a porn addiction, just like drug addiction, there's the gambling addiction, and it's really taking like a lot of major players now because we saw the story that was that held back City from getting Lucas Paqueta. It was
Mm-hmm.
something
Mhm.
similar, but placing bets and all those kind of stuff. So it's like big name players we're looking at now too, who are on the come up and doing well. And if they do it, then you're gonna start seeing younger people doing it. All in all, I just don't think it's a good look for the sport at all. So I definitely am against it 100%.
Well, for me, I think um I had the privilege of assessing it from a more policy approach. I studied it when I did sports law, Lex Sportiva, and I have a
Hmm.
much more nuanced approach. Because when we look at gambling, if we look at it from a regulation perspective and being responsible, um, we have to look at the fact that many of these um, leagues, so to speak, most of their sponsorship comes from gambling companies and what's not. So you see
Hmm.
the hypocrisy. Like for instance, automatically I think of Stoke City, Net 365. I
Yeah.
use that because of Stoke City, and then you criticize Ivan Tony and those guys and say that it's bad for the game when you basically have companies that sponsor teams. So, for instance, we could look at them and say, oh, maybe they can influence the team's result or what's not. But here comes the nuance with responsibility. If we look at the fact that we can emphasize strict regulation, can emphasize education, and possibly support, because this is not me advocating for it, but this is just me sharing this nuanced perspective. Um, Maybe we can have a more balanced approach when you have, as opposed to people hiding and doing it illegally,
Hmm.
you can have it done in a
Mhm.
controlled manner. And then again, you,
Yeah.
you ultimately harm the integrity of the sport. But like in cricket, for instance, you can get banned if a bookie approach you and you fail to declare it. So think
Hmm.
that like declaration of gambling. So let's say, for instance, um, I want to go and place a bet. It must be declared. Must be known to everybody. It must be open. So the chances of you, if you play the compromising team in any way, then you should be investigated, and then you can be listed as a gambling cheat. But if it's a case that it's open, you perform to the best of your ability, so that you can win this prize, as the question posed by Ron, then maybe, just maybe, you can say, okay, then this should be permissible in this context. But then again, as he rightfully pointed out, it affects the integrity of the game, and you don't want people to be motivated by these incentives. But it's just a conversation to be had, and it's something that we shouldn't um, just dismiss, so to speak. We should have the nuanced conversation and see how this can be approached. Yes, it's a reality that we face. Many others that do it secretly. Should it,
Yeah.
it's a time for it to be controlled. It's a time for us to do an education and support approach. Support those who have the addiction, and those who don't have it, can they be permitted? It's a very interesting conversation.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's like it's the hypocrisy overall in football that always is like the funny thing because like with the Bet 365 and all of them sponsoring these teams, but yet you're telling people not to gamble. I think that's more from like you said, the policy side of it all from the top come down because they're gonna tell a player not to do it, but technically you are using the money that comes from that betting organization to fund parts of your league.
Mhm.
So like, come on, like, what are you really saying that you represent? Do as I say, not as I do, to some extent, you know?
Well, I mean, it's definitely something that requires it's a thin line and it's potentially a slippery slope if you allow gambling, and it would have to be something that's very. They would need to put a system in place that, well, it's never possible to truly put up a system that people cannot circumvent, but at least a system that is very close to preventing um, match fixing or any kind of thing that would ruin the integrity of the game. But nonetheless, it's definitely a nuanced discussion, and we will definitely stand by and see what happens in relation to Sandro and whether or not he will face a ban, or worse yet, if his ban will be shortened. Uh, I should say best yet, when if his ban would be shortened by some form of therapy, since it's an addiction, and hopefully he'll be able to recover and the player that we all know he could be.
Yeah.
Well, from here now we could move on to players being all big and discuss the recent. Well, it's not really an official announcement, but if it's from Fab, it's essentially official. And we've recently, I should say, within the last 15 hours, heard that Lionel Messi will be awarded this year. What was your reaction to that? Do you think it was deserving? What does this legacy, Ronaldo, Messi, what
Mm,
future generations of to be the next greatest of all time? Like, what does that all of these discussions?
To
mm.
me, it means that the Ballon d'Or has possibly lost its credibility. How? How?
All right. I
How?
actually expected Lemar to be the one to disagree here, but I think we're all in agreement
Yeah.
that I don't think Lionel Messi was the best player this season. I don't think he was the best player at the World Cup, even though Argentina won the World Cup,
Even some,
which I do
even some he
believe
was
certain
though, Chris.
decisions
Even some he was.
influenced Argentina to win the World Cup.
Yeah, I think he's winning it on the basis of sensationalism, like everybody like they wanted him to win it and all these kind of stuff, and they won it.
It's
So
the
everybody's
story,
just
I think.
for that, like yeah, the storybook ending. But if you're gonna do something like that, then what does it really say for overall the game?
Mhm.
Because I always go back to when Lewandowski wasn't awarded the Ballon d'Or that year, when they amazingly just decided to not give it out when he was supposed
Yeah,
to get it, and now you have something like this again, and that's why you have like the world is split in thinking they favor Messi, and obviously they give him these things because they want him to go down in history as the best of all time. But I just don't think, especially in this year, when you had like treble winning teams, plus you have somebody like if you're thinking on the basis of just trophies, and you just look at Alvarez, he won a treble and he
Mhm.
won the World Cup. But I mean, nobody's
Yeah,
thinking of him in that way. But then there's also Haaland with over 50 odd goals and all these different things, and his team won a treble. So like, is it that we're saying, oh, just because of maybe 3 to 4 weeks at the World Cup, where you weren't really even the best player at the World Cup, but because your team won it and because you were this all-time great, we're just gonna hand you an award because it looks good for you to
yeah,
finish your career.
Yep. And even Selfie was the best player at the World Cup. Let's just say that.
Mhm.
There's an award for that. Isn't that the Golden Ball or something?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
So give him that. Like, bro, you did not deserve this. Well, first of all, I don't think he deserved it. Haaland, I mean, as a Chelsea fan, as a hater, I'm going to say that I'm possibly a hater. I shouldn't be rooting for a City player, but
Mm.
Haaland deserves it, and this would be him being robbed. I think it would have been so good for Haaland's career in the whole Mbappe debate. It
yeah.
gives us something to stimulate our taste bud, and
Mhm.
just continue the arguments or what's not. But there's just this award to Messi, who arguably is one of the greatest player, if not the greatest player of all time.
Mhm.
It just harms its
The game.
credibility. Yeah, and again, my favorite player was Hazard, and I have no shame in saying that. So I was never on the Messi Ronaldo debate. I just appreciated both of them, and I just love to be
Yeah.
provocative on either side. But
Mhm.
it doesn't help Messi's argument for me personally. I know some people say, "Oh, this closes the argument." In fact, it opens it more for me. It makes me question some of the things that I shouldn't be questioning because I think he's definitely deserved some of these awards. But it just makes me question these last three, and
Hmm.
it's quite sad. But
Mhm.
this is the reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, like you were saying, Lemar, it was perfectly poised for somebody like Haaland because if he gets it, then Mbappe, you would like to think will be stimulated, motivated, all these
Exactly.
kind of stuff to go forward,
Mhm.
and it would have been the perfect transition
Yeah. To the next generation.
generation. But I think they just messed that up, and they probably put
Yeah.
set football back by at least another year.
The thing,
Uh,
Lemar,
yeah,
like
go
you were
ahead, Chris.
saying, right? Oh, yeah. Like you were saying, like even if Messi was the best player at the World Cup, and I think we could all agree that he was not, that should go to Mbappe. But let's say, just for argument's sake, he was the best player for like the couple games at the World Cup. Haaland has been better in a greater amount of games than Messi has been throughout the entire year. It just, devalues the sport as a whole.
Yeah.
And I, I think it even, like you said, it opens the conversation more because you wonder how many more trophies were just given to Messi. And
Exactly.
I can think of a few, to be honest. I could think of 2019.
Mm.
That's the first one. I could think that I believe should have been given to Van Dijk. 2021, even though Messi won a Copa America, Lewandowski was phenomenal for Bayern that year. He broke Gerd Muller's record that year of, I
Yeah.
believe it was 40 goals. I think
Yeah.
he was better throughout the course of the entire football season. Um, I could think of 2010 as well, when Wesley Sneijder
Snyder. Yeah.
won a treble with Inter and took the Netherlands, I believe it was, all the way to the World Cup finals.
Finals. Yeah. Like
He was one of their key players that year. And now this is the fourth one that I would say as a robbery. And I'm a Ronaldo fan. I lean towards Ronaldo in the GOAT debate. But for me, Messi has like 4 legit Ballon d'Ors. Even if you want to take one of Ronaldo's in 2013, which some would say should have gone to Frank Ribery, I
Yeah,
think they both stand at 4 legit Ballon d'Or trophies.
I
Exactly.
agree.
Um, I, I actually, my take is a bit more. I mean, I don't agree with this one for sure. This one is just ridiculous. I think there have been three Ballon d'Ors that I would say I do not agree with at all. Two of them are Messi's, hurt Chris so much, but the other one is Modric. I actually think this one
I
and the
actually thought
Modric
that.
one
Anyways,
and
I'll
here's
talk
why I
about
would say that Modric is the only Ballon d'Or that I've seen for a player being awarded for World Cup, essentially. Because if you
Yep.
take into consideration
it.
Ronaldo was that year in club football, he just did not have the
Exactly. I agree. I
international
agree.
push. Right? Ronaldo was the best player in the world that year. Horrendous year, I believe, in the Ballon d'Or voting or something like that. I think that one was wrong. I think the one over Lewandowski was actually even more erroneous than this one because they had the audacity to create another award to justify. Like when they created that award, everybody knew that Messi was going to win the Ballon d'Or and he was going to win the world's best striker award, which is a thing to say because it's like if you create a best defense or best striker award, is you're removing certain tension when it
For the Ballon d'Or.
exactly for the Ballon d'Or. So how exactly the
Mhm.
defender or an out and out striker? So this one, I definitely saw this one coming. His objectively the worst season of his career. At looking at him because it's a yearly award. That
I think it was better this season than last season, to be fair. But yeah, it still
I could say that,
isn't
but
enough
it was
to.
very bad. They didn't
Yeah.
gain anything really that they would not have otherwise won.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
on the internet, I think there was a pass. Now, I think despite the fact that Messi won the World Cup and I was happy for him, actually Mbappe during the World Cup stretch showed that he was better than Messi. And I do think that during the club football season, Erling Haaland showed that he was Messi at this time. Not saying that they're great or they're that 2012 was definitely way better than both of them are have ever been in their career thus far. But I think on the international level, Mbappe was exceptional. The goals that he scored were better. His performances were more clutch. There's nothing you could say about Mbappe that was bad. I think he should have finished second in the Ballon d'Or voting, and I think he should have gone to Erling Haaland for a treble, which is something
Hmm.
that I don't know why people are acting like that. That's like some normal shit that happened. Like that's ridiculous. The guy scored an alarming amount of goals in a league that is notorious for not allowing one individual to score a lot of goals. The talking
Hmm.
coming into the Premier League is like, yeah, when the Premier League defenders put the weight on him, he's not going to score, blah, 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 blah. You know, and everybody's talking. But every game he was banging them in. He scored numerous hat tricks in this season. If he was playing for Spain or Germany or France, I think for sure he would have been the Ballon d'Or winner by a wide margin because one, those teams would have been better for having him, and you would have had an international career that was worth mentioning so far. So I think this one is a wild one to me, but I saw it coming the moment I saw Messi lifting that trophy. That those two penalties were saved and missed. I knew that Messi was going to win the Ballon d'Or because
Yeah.
the story that world football wanted. You know, this glorious
Yes.
send off into America, and but it is what it is. But it does damage the credibility somewhat the award. But I think the award's credibility has been in no.
Okay.
Agreed.
Just to go back on your Modric take, right? I'm actually a bit 50-50 on this, to be
Yeah.
fair, because I've always been of the opinion that, output is should determine probably whether it's defensive or offensive output. That's what should determine, you know, you winning the trophy, because that's what would it, I guess, win you games. But if you look at how Modric controlled the games for Croatia in that World Cup and also for Madrid at the club level, he was by far the best midfielder in the world that season. And from the trophy perspective, he won everything Ronaldo won. Granted, Real wouldn't have done anything without Ronaldo's output, which is why I'm a bit 50-50 on this. And at the World Cup, Modric was the best player by far for me. Well, I guess you could put in Griezmann in that conversation, maybe Mbappe, those guys. But for me, Modric was the best midfielder in the world and best player in the World Cup. And given the amount of weight that the World Cup seems to have on who wins the Ballon d'Or, I think it was fair, I guess, at least from that perspective. But in terms of output, in terms of, carrying a team, like what Ronaldo did that season was unreal. And if you want to put another one that he should have won, I actually wouldn't mind because, like I said, I am a Ronaldo fan. So
Okay, well, I guess we could agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, from any closing thoughts? I mean, we could talk about briefly the hazard. I mean, we did mention it earlier, but it is an interesting moment. I think it's a truly like elite player that came to prominence while we were conscious of football. Tired. Um, it's interesting to player retire so young, given that these of footballers seem to be expanding to their forties when you look at people like Zlatan and Ronaldo.
yeah,
But it's,
Well, I mean, all I have to say about Hazard is that he's mesmerized us for years in the Prem. I've been very thankful to watch him do his thing. And I mean, at this point, he's just doing what's best for him. And in this world, like, honestly, you just got to know when enough is enough. So I wish him the best in retirement.
go ahead, Lemar. Speak to us. This is a safe place.
Yeah,
Fellas, I may have to hop off. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, man. Thanks for
All right.
coming on.
Yeah, it was a pleasure being here and discussing all these
Yeah,
matters with
hope
y'all.
to have you back at some point.
Oh,
yeah,
of course. Just
God,
let me know when.
Yeah,
You take care, fellas.
yeah,
yeah,
what I know for sure is that we've been again as we close. Um, I think we just have to appreciate the longevity of Messi and Ronaldo, and just pay homage to two of the greats. I mean, regardless of where you fall in the debate, these guys set the standard so high that when people like Hazard retire at a normal retirement age, we question it like, come on, you denied us of longevity, but it's just a testament to the greatness of Messi
mhm,
and Ronaldo. And I'll always have love and appreciation for guys like Hazard. And we continue to look forward to a bright future with the likes of Vinicius, Haaland, and Mbappe, and the likes of Jude Bellingham and those guys. And hopefully they can handle the torch well and just continue to contribute to our beautiful game.
yeah.
Those are my
no,
thoughts.
that was beautiful.
That was beautiful, man. I almost shed a tear. I ain't gonna lie. But
Yeah,
yeah, man, football is definitely moving on to the next generation, and you just need to enjoy every moment you can.
yeah. I mean, and essentially,
And we'll continue to enjoy the next generation as well.
yeah,
They've already started to entertain us, and they'll do so for many more years.
For
true. And
sure.
in reality, every story, just like this
Yeah.
podcast that has lasted hours and 35 minutes plus. So for those who have
Wow.
stuck with us until then, thank you so much for listening in. It was my pleasure, of course, Chris, and
Yeah.
of course, Lemar Williams, who gave his time, and you know, he's busy becoming and his neck's top attorney. So it really was hard to pin him down to get this this appearance, and of course, uh, Keith studying at Howard University, and so you know, thank you both and
And
congratulations
Ron
to you
busy at
both.
Hugh Wooden, you know.
Yeah, yes, and Chris, of course, guy on his neck removing all the teeth, replacing them with veneers. Veneer King, you've heard of Liver King, but wait until you hear of Veneer King coming
Wow.
to you
Wow.
soon on Main Street. But yeah, yo, thank you so much, and this is us signing out. Have a good one, and remember to
Yes,
like,
fellas.
subscribe, share, and tell a friend. Risk
Road
your
to 50.
relationship to watch this.
Road to
It's
50
it's
subs.
worth. Yes, Road to 50. It's where dozens and dozens of fans. And
All right, take care, fellas.
Yeah, man. Good to have you.